Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. We bring you hundreds of novel audiobooks covering every genre and every kind of story you can imagine. Action? We've got it. Adventure? Absolutely. Horror? Of course. Whether it's the legendary Uchiha massacre or outrageous tales like stealing Naruto's and Sasuke's women, you'll find it here. From epic series like One Piece, Bleach, Fairy Tail, and Hunter x Hunter, to countless other adventures, our library has it all. Love novels but don't have time to read? No worries, just plug in your earbuds, sit back, and let the story take over. Good listening, and happy hearing about this outbreak. Did your people have anything to do with this incident? I questioned sternly. No. Never. We never intended anything like this to occur. He answered without hesitation almost instantaneously upon receiving the query. So, no Umbrella Corp personnel released these creatures intentionally then? Absolutely not. I stared deep into his frightened eyes, trying to discern whether he spoke truly or merely attempting to mislead us away from truth. Maybe he was just a low-ranking researcher and knew nothing at all? Or perhaps Umbrella simply didn't bother involving themselves directly with matters like this? Either way, I took his answer at face value for now. Then why were there two laboratories belonging to your company located here? This is Japan. Your facility shouldn't be present in this country. Well, technically speaking, replied John shakily, we actually own property everywhere around the globe including Asia. Our HQ happens to reside within America, however. As far as I understand, this particular location houses facilities dedicated towards experimental purposes. Medicine, I mean. Medicinal products meant pills and others, correct? But they were still experimenting with dangerous stuff secretly here, weren't they? And the result ended up in failure. I shook my head mentally. So you created vaccines for viruses? Siko chimed in unexpectedly, surprising me somewhat considering she hadn't spoken since entering office together with our hostage earlier. John hesitated for several seconds before responding slowly. No, there is no vaccine, unfortunately. No antidote? She frowned slightly at his revelation, prompting him to continue the explanation quickly. We tried making prototypes but ultimately failed miserably. Everything produced was either ineffective, completely useless against effects caused by these viral strains, or resulted in fatal outcomes resulting in death within mere minutes after injection. You mean? Yes. Test subjects died shortly after exhibiting similar symptoms shown by those infected individuals roaming outside. Chapter 57, Lost Blog as I see. In short, a failure. They didn't become zombies or bioweapons and just died pathetically. Alright, second question. What kind of serum did you want to find? Upon hearing that, John tensed up visibly. He stammered nervously. That thing. Did you think we didn't hear what you said when you entered the lab? I said threateningly. Seeing no alternative method available in order to survive except providing information requested, Davis complied readily. Thus, he began narrating once more after taking deep breaths beforehand to calm himself down. The thing I sought is an antidote. I heard that one of them is inside the safe in the facility down there. A zombie antidote? No. John shouted in panic, then added softly afterward. I wanted it because I heard that you can develop an antivirus using it. So, you wanted it because it's an important substance. And the final question. Davis was still pale, looking horrified for being treated like this. Who sent you? I asked tersely. He blinked twice in surprise at hearing my inquiry. Excuse me? What are you talking about? Don't act dumb now. I snarled disdainfully. You're affiliated with Umbrella Corporation. If someone from your workplace heard that one of their biggest investments has gone rogue, sending agents here shouldn't be impossible for them. Am I right? Umbrella Corp wasn't that nice. These zombies were their moneymakers. Hold on. You misunderstood me. I did work for them, but I'm no longer loyal to that horrible corporation. And they don't need to send anyone to deal with me because... John Davis paused abruptly as realization dawned upon him. The tyrant. He was sent to kill me. Tyrant? Now that was interesting. Tyrant Nishimura lingered around that mall back then, yet Umbrella dispatched another agent besides him? Were the laboratories independent from each other? Or maybe they were connected and this John Davis man was around the mall a few days ago. When he realized the lab was ransacked already, he visited this place to search for clues, and he discovered the underground lab. Whatever it may be, I wanted to confirm my suspicion first. Are you talking about that big giant with ridiculous strength? Siko chimed in before me. Of course she would be curious. She experienced firsthand how insanely strong Tyrant Nishimura was, thus being interested in knowing further details regarding creatures akin to monsters must surely intrigue her curiosity greatly. Yes. An artificial human designed by the corporation. Although I am unsure which model was used, its sole purpose remains unchanged despite differences between models, namely extermination. John Davis answered calmly before continuing with evident anger evident across his facial features, clenching his fists tightly whilst gritting teeth furiously, glaring fiercely towards floor beneath feet. Those bastards sent a monster like him to assassinate me. Judging by his reaction, it appeared whatever happened between himself and whoever hired the assassin wasn't particularly pleasant nor happy memories worth remembering fondly. But then again, why would the Umbrella Corporation dispatch Tyrant to kill this man? Did that mean Tyrant Nishimura that we defeated was actually sent for this man here? I chose to kill it by following the system choice. So this was the result of that choice? Ding. You have received 300 shop points. As if confirming my thought, the system gave me the reward for the latest choice. I see. So the creature I fought in the mall was meant for you. I commented nonchalantly while resting my finger on the trigger. Say, who is the most responsible person regarding the creation of these zombies? Well, John Davis contemplated for several moments, staring intently downwards towards tiles composing office building interior design's flooring surface. It depends on which branch you refer to exactly, but generally speaking I don't know. Sako narrowed her eyes suspiciously, observing his face closely. I was only a lowly researcher assigned to test a few things. I don't know anything more than what I told you. John Davis stammered anxiously. Is that so? My brows creased ever so slightly. Let's test it out then. Wait. John Davis raised his hands instinctively in a surrender gesture before pleading desperately for mercy. I really don't know much more beyond my tasks. Believe me. I don't believe it. Umbrella Corporation wouldn't send a tyrant over him if he was just a worthless pawn. They probably sent it to retrieve his corpse. Maybe they needed a brain of his? Or, they just wanted to silence him. Whatever the case may be, I deemed him untrustworthy. Hence, I pulled the trigger and shot him straight at his head. Bang. A hole appeared right between his wide eyes. I stepped back, expecting him to fall dead in a moment. However, what greeted my sight shocked both myself and Sako. What the hell? John's skin turned pale with red veins appearing all over his exposed parts. His wound healed instantly, revealing a new fresh forehead with an intact skull. How? I muttered in shock after witnessing such an unnatural phenomenon unfold right before my own two eyes. Brother. Sako immediately unsheathed her sword and beheaded John Davis decisively, looping his head and separating it completely from the rest of his body. At that moment, his body convulsed violently as black blood spurted forth abundantly, spraying across the entire area. A strange movement could be seen around his severed neck, like an insect leg, twisting around in vain. Then, with a spurt, a tentacle emerged from his headless neck, resembling a grotesque worm-like appendage covered in pulsating red veins. It wriggled around erratically, forming a sharp spike made purely out of solidified muscle mass protruding from the topmost portion. Within moments it grew exponentially larger, becoming nearly a meter tall, towering threateningly above us. Las Plagas. I recognized it easily thanks to playing Reform multiple times. A parasite originating from Spain. If I remembered correctly, the game also described it as having intelligence, allowing them to communicate with others. That was the dominant one. Las Plagas started out as tiny organisms burrowed within human hosts, manipulating them through nerve signals, granting incredible regeneration abilities and turning ordinary people into ferocious creatures capable of attacking anyone indiscriminately. Just like zombies, but different. To think that John Davis was infected with one. Could this be the safety key that all Umbrella Corporation researchers carried? It looks ugly. Sako remarked calmly whilst slicing off the newly sprouted tentacle, causing it to fall lifelessly onto tiled floor with a sickening plop sound, spurting out copious amounts of foul-smelling pus in process. Thud. I looked at the corpse quietly. Investigating the lab again might be a good idea. If my guess was right, then the antidote that John Davis talked about was one that could kill the Las Plagas inside our bodies. Having it would guarantee our survival even if we were unlucky enough to meet them. Damn. Chapter 58, Finding Antidote. Before returning to the underground lab, we scoured the vicinity to ensure everything was safe. We killed all zombies roaming inside and outside the police station's perimeter without issues. Then after everything was clear, I called Sai and Miss Shizuka. I definitely needed their help to find this antidote among all the vials placed on the shelf. When they arrived at the underground, Saya couldn't help but pinch her nose at the pungent odor. This smell is horrible. Saya complained while glaring accusingly towards me. How could you two handle this environment? It stinks. Just bear with it. Come on, let's start searching. I said before explaining our goal briefly to both ladies present. I wouldn't say that I was a genius who knew about everything. My knowledge was limited to guns, how to fight, and a little bit of interrogation because I loved reading criminal novels and watching movies. This task, therefore, required expertise which neither Sako nor I possessed whatsoever, hence why we relied upon two others here, especially Miss Shizuka, whose job revolved around nursing. I asked Saya to find documents and matched it with the antidote. We had an impression that the researchers catalogued their experiments. As expected, Saya soon found papers with photos of vials on them. Some were crossed out with red pen marks. Most likely, failed experiments. With a match, we should find the antidote easily. This is... She mumbled as her fingers hovered across pages of numerous files and data compiled neatly within thick folders stored in the file cabinet. This is insane. To think they tested all kinds of things like this. Horrible, really horrible. The pinkette shivered involuntarily at every turn she took towards the new page. Each contained illustrations depicting horrifying abominations brought by mad scientists attempting to create bioweaponry. One of them had Tyrant's prototype with a large yet destroyed body with an exposed heart. Find anything else interesting? I asked curiously. We need to find an antidote for a parasite. This is horrible. Saya repeated once more absent-mindedly before snapping herself awake. Wait. I think I found it. Yes, yes. Her expression brightened considerably immediately afterwards upon seeing another illustration. I looked at the page she opened. My mouth opened in surprise when I saw the illustration, an arthropod-like creature that resembled Las Plagas. On the corner, the label Mars 9th, 199X, told us when this experiment happened. Not only the Las Plagas itself, it also showed the host that got infected by one as well as the adult Las Plagas that spurted from a human severed head. This seems like it. Find the vial that has a matching logo with the drawing on this paper. I said to Saya and Shizuka, giving the pinkette some instructions on how to proceed to the next step onward. Both of them nodded simultaneously and started browsing through stacks upon stacks filled with glass bottles. I also helped to find the antidote while Sako stood guard near the door leading outside of this place. After all, anything could happen at any moment. Finding one bottle proved surprisingly difficult even for us since we lacked detailed information regarding its location. Luckily though, there were labels indicating contents written on caps affixed onto containers themselves alongside corresponding numbers engraved on them too. After a few minutes, Miss Shizuka screamed. Kaya. I quickly unsheathed my sword and ran toward her. What's wrong? That vial, the liquid. It's disgusting. Miss Shizuka explained fearfully. She pointed at one vial. I approached and looked at the vial. Inside, there was a small arthropod creature with its legs dangling down limply in red liquid. It twitched and writhed around slowly, like a maggot. Disgusting indeed. The label said Las Plagas, dominant. Then I realized. This was the dominant version of Las Plagas, one that couldn't be controlled by ultrasonic sound and could command the subordinate version. The host would gain increased physical ability as long as the parasites were inside them, rendering them virtually immortal. They could even tank a few shotgun shots in the head. I looked at the vial in my hand and to Saya. Upon meeting my gaze, she shrieked and covered her chest with her arms. Don't ever think about it, stupid. I already read the document, and I will say no. She screamed fearfully. No, I won't. I responded gently. We need an antidote, remember? She sighed in relief. Indeed, infecting my girl with Umbrella Corp's parasite was stupid. However, I shouldn't destroy this dominant Las Plagas either. This could save life, although it would turn the host into something very dangerous. Having it is better. With that, I put this vial in my pocket, keeping it a secret from everyone. Of course, Sako, who always watched me, might notice it, but she always took my side and trusted me. Then, Saya found another vial with a label, Antivirus, Las Plagas. There were only 2 of these. According to the log on the documents, the creator died a week after the experiment and left only 2 antiviruses before his demise. The recipe for making another was lost along with him. So this can kill the parasite inside our bodies? What about curing zombies? It seems to be impossible. Saya read through the paper quickly. Zombies' cells have degraded too much. The antivirus is useless. Even when they were just bitten, the virus infecting them was different from the parasite, so it would only kill the house and not cure it. Oh well. I should save up points to buy the zombie serum for safety, then. Alright, let's leave then. We finished looting. And we went upstairs to head toward our next destination. Chapter 59, to the airport. Tokunazu International Airport was far from the police station we were at. Even using a Humvee, it would need around 2 hours of travel, that was if the road was empty. Unfortunately, empty was never the word for Tokunazu anymore since last week. The worst problem came in the form of zombies clustered together around narrow roads. It was troublesome to use Humvee to push them away due to the vehicle size. Moreover, The number of zombies stuck together made the car's movement slower and consumed more fuel. Also, shooting at zombies from the car would waste our ammo and bring even more to us. So we had to take another route. Ugh, it's so slow. Saya grumbled impatiently. She was sitting in the back seat behind mine, making herself as comfortable as possible. However, just as she said, our journey was painfully slow. We were already traveling for 2 hours and it felt like forever to me. The fuel gauge indicated that there were still plenty of reserves left, however, having too little wouldn't do us any favors when dealing with unexpected situations later. Besides, according to global positioning system device installed in the vehicle, the airport was situated somewhere near the coastline area. It was still tens of kilometers away. Should we stop at the gas station first? Miss Shizuka asked. We have some reserve fuel in the trunk, but it's better to refuel anyway. There is one nearby. I nodded my head before speaking out loud. Sure, let's refuel. Having more fuel meant more safety for us. Thus we stopped at a gas station along the street not too far from the city center. It's so empty. I commented absent-mindedly whilst staring at deserted surroundings. I was prepared to bring only a barrel to refuel if there are many abandoned cars, but this is emptier than I imagined. Although there were a lot of zombies roaming around, there were no signs of people loitering about. Most likely everyone evacuated days ago once news spread about what's going on outside their homes and workplaces. I see. It's like a ghost town here. Siko agreed softly. We were indeed a bit away from the city's center, more into the countryside but still close enough to the police station. After arriving at the gas station, we quickly checked on everything important and did necessary preparations before starting to refill the Humvee's tank to full. Because the refueling system needed to pay first, and we got no money, I decided to take a rather extreme solution. Thud. It's open. I grinned as I looked at the register I opened with M1A1's buttstock. We had no money but didn't mean we wouldn't be taking other valuable things. While the store looked like it had been ransacked, there were still goods like water, soda, beer, and junk food that could survive the apocalypse. We quickly stocked them on the car and filled it with as much as possible. Though, just when I thought we could safely get away with a full stomach and fuel tank, a noise rang from the store we were just in. Thud. Elp. What the? Saya gasped when the second shaking occurred. What is that? It's from inside. Miss Shizuka commented. Is there a survivor there? I don't know. I admitted truthfully, if it's a thief or zombie, I'll take care of it. Are you sure? Siko asked worriedly. Shouldn't you let me go instead? Don't worry. I reassured her confidently, patting her shoulder gently. Stay here and protect Saya and Miss Shizuka. I will deal with whoever is there in an instant. With that, I entered the store once again. I unsheathed my sword carefully while walking slowly through the aisle until reaching the door leading into the storage room where noises originated from earlier. Help. Help. When I got closer, the voice became louder. Taking a deep breath first to calm down nerves, I gripped the doorknob and twisted it clockwise. Click. Slowly opening the entrance, I peeked inside and immediately closed it again. I didn't even care about looking twice and stepped away from the door, leaving the store in a hurry. The other three had already settled in the Humvee. I quickly jumped in and turned to Miss Shizuka. Let's get going. What, you're not going to save that person? Saya asked as if expecting something like heroism from me. Just get going. Miss Shizuka, start the engine and go at full speed. I demanded firmly, ignoring Saya's question and putting trust in the older woman sitting next to me driving the Humvee. Fortunately, my reaction seemed to cause concern among everyone else. Miss Shizuka nodded and started the car, speeding away from the gas station immediately after shifting gears into high gear mode. Is that person all right? Siko questioned cautiously whilst watching me intently for signs of trouble. Yeah. Just let it be. I don't think we need to care anymore. I responded vaguely without bothering to elaborate further. I was trying hard to suppress my horror after recalling what I saw a moment ago inside the storeroom. Explaining it to the other might be too much. But well, considering that it shouldn't appear easily outside the storeroom, I decided to keep it a secret. It's not zombies' work. Most likely humans. So let's leave that thing there, yeah? Anyway, what is it with me and the convenience store? Meeting danger every time. Seeing my reaction, Siko didn't push it either and only stared silently out the window. She understood I had secrets, and accepted that I couldn't reveal all of them. Sometimes I wonder, how does her brain work to come up with such acceptance? We continued driving towards the airport for a while longer. Along the way, we came across a few stranded vehicles that were left abandoned along highways or roadsides. I had to come down the Humvee to move those cars from our way. With my strength, pushing the unlocked cars was easy. Are you a human? Saya asked mockingly. Even though the cars are unlocked, Only you can do this, pushing a mini truck out of our way with bare hands. You want to try it? No, I don't want to try. Of course, not every time we could get lucky, getting only unlocked cars or small cars. Some were big vehicles or locked ones. Those were impossible to be removed. So we had to find another detour. It took almost 2 hours extra due to these obstacles along the roads we passed by until finally reaching our destination. Tokenazu International Airport. Chapter 60, The Real Goal. Zombies gathered at the gate, and our arrival attracted them to us. Hold tight, dear. We're gonna break the fence. Miss Shizuka exclaimed cheerfully, stepping the gas pedal harder. Crash. Humvees might be bulky, but they weren't built to be driven straight through solid steel barriers like what we encountered now. Our momentum slowed significantly when colliding head-on against a sturdy metal barricade blocking the path ahead. However, the Humvee won. We managed to pierce through and enter the airport area. The Humvee shook and Saya screamed. Kaya. She grabbed onto my arm tightly and held it close to her chest, burying her face against my bicep. Ouch. Sorry. Miss Shizuka apologized guiltily. No, it's fine. Saya answered while rubbing her behind. Miss Shizuka, keep moving. I shouted loudly upon seeing an incoming horde approaching from behind us rapidly. Drive to the hangar. Quickly. Oh okay, the nurse replied hastily. Screech. Our car sped away once again, heading towards the hangar located far ahead. Unfortunately, our tires suddenly started losing traction and spinning uncontrollably for some reason. Kaya. Hold on. Miss Shizuka tried her best to maintain control over the steering wheel. The car spun wildly before stopping completely with a loud screeching sound. I quickly grabbed my rifle and jumped out of the car. Miss Shizuka, start the car again and go to the hangar first. I commanded firmly, pointing towards a large building nearby. I will help you, brother. Sako jumped off as well, joining me alongside carrying her katana. What are you doing? We need to escape. Saya shouted angrily from inside the Humvee. You idiots. But I didn't answer. Bang. My gunshot pierced through one zombie's skull effortlessly. However, countless more kept following closely afterwards, approaching menacingly from all directions. Go. I am trying. Miss Shizuka shouted back, trying her best to restart the Humvee. After a few tries, the engine finally roared to life again. She accelerated the gas pedal, steering wheel towards the hangar, leaving us alone outside the airport perimeter surrounded by swarms of undead. I thought I was ready for this, but the reality proved to be harsher than what I initially anticipated. Shit. They're coming too fast. I fired at the closest zombie's head several times until he dropped dead, falling face first into the pavement beneath my feet. As soon as one fell, another appeared. Shooting them was tiring. Fortunately, Sako's sword was capable enough to take care of those who came near. She cut through their necks swiftly like cutting vegetables. I could still hear the Humvee's noise. We had to stall for more time until they could reach the hangar and bring a plane outside. If they got ambushed before arriving at a safe place, everyone would die. Zombies didn't possess enough strength or intellect to open a door. At least we won't run out of bullets. Even so, I had to fire slowly and precisely at each target. Wasting bullets recklessly was stupid. Sako, run toward the hangar on my mark. I shouted loudly, hoping she understood me amidst gunfire being exchanged between us and incoming hordes of zombies. Reloading, cover me. Sako moved forward and decapitated a couple zombies with precision. Blood splattered everywhere, covering her uniform completely red. Some even sprayed directly onto her face, but she didn't seem to mind at all. I emptied the magazine before tossing it into my vest and inserting a new one inside. 20 shots and 3 full mags remaining. Thinking so, I slung my rifle over my back and unsheathed my katana. I fought next to Sako, stopping the zombies from approaching us. However, their numbers didn't seem to decrease. In fact, there were more of them coming from the airport like a wave crashing against the shoreline. The endless stream of corpses caused chills throughout my entire body. At that moment, I could only hear the zombies' groans and our breathing sounds. My eyes widened as I quickly pulled one flashbang from my vest. Sis, run. The flashbang arched midair toward the center of the zombie cluster. It touched the ground with clanging sounds before releasing deafening noise and blinding lights. Boom. That was my cue. I pulled Sako's hand and sprinted away toward the hangar at full speed. She looked surprised at my fast movement but nevertheless followed without any complaint. My adrenaline rush gave me additional strength to drag Sako's hand tighter as I ran faster than normal, dodging all obstacles blocking my way effortlessly. The Humvee was parked near the entrance of the hangar. There weren't any zombies chasing them. All zombies must have been running toward our former spot. I saw Saya waving her hand from afar calling us desperately. Come here. Siko and I finally arrived in front of the hangar. When the door opened wide open, revealing the interior of the building filled with darkness. It was an empty space except for one object standing tall above everything else within view. An airplane. Damn. There is one here. My luck finally turned around, but I couldn't rest easy yet. Close the door. Miss Shizuka, who held the controller for the door, pressed it. It closed on its own accord with a press of a button. However, the process was painfully slow. The zombies in the distance began moving again, attracted by the sound generated from closing the doors. I quickly pulled the pin of another flashbang and threw it as far as I could away from us. Once again, a loud explosion and bright light occurred which attracted all the zombies. The door was fully closed after a few seconds. Now we were safe. Safe inside this massive building, separated from the outside world thanks to thick walls surrounding us. I turned around to see a small-sized plane parked right before our eyes. It wasn't anything fancy but definitely usable for escaping to somewhere else where there might be survivors waiting for rescue. Now, we have another problem. We have no pilot. Going blindly to the airport without knowing how to fly a plane might be stupid. However, I didn't come here without a plan. Airport is usually built near the sea. And the area around it must be clear as is needed for the landing procedure. Hence, there would be boats near here. My plan since the start wasn't to get a plane but a boat. So there was no problem at all. Chapter 61, The Horror of Apocalypse. The sun hovered over the horizon. I stood on the balcony on the top floor of the hangar, looking out towards the ocean. From this height, the whole airport area looked rather large, stretching outwards endlessly into a vast expanse beyond imagination. Waves crashed against shorelines rhythmically creating soothing melodies that reverberated throughout air. Beyond blue waters lay a seemingly endless field of nothingness extending further away than the eye could perceive. Beautiful sight indeed, but also somewhat frightening if I might add, because nothing was visible aside from water itself. Not even the faintest outline of the landmass could be seen anywhere nearby. And it reminded me once again about the current situation happening everywhere else across the globe. Zombies, attracted by loud waves, stumbled into the sea one after another. They were the reason why I didn't act immediately and instead decided to rest for the day and let them kill themselves. I waited patiently while watching countless figures wandering aimlessly within proximity of the shoreline. "What are you doing?" Saya called out from behind me, causing me to turn around, slightly startled by her sudden presence behind me. She approached silently until standing beside me wearing a similar easy-to-move outfit like Siko with a harness around her chest, emphasizing her boobs nicely. Noticing my gaze, she narrowed her eyes and hid her bountiful chest. "What are you looking at?" I smiled at her. "I just never expected to see you in that bodysuit-like clothes. It looks good on you." She grumbled under her breath before sighing, "Just tell me already. What do you intend to do?" "For now? Rest?" I answered and leaned against the railing. "Next? I wanted to get some boats from around that area." I pointed toward the west side of Tokunazu City's coast, which extended further outward compared to the east side of the city, which was more developed. "I see." Saya crossed her arms beneath her bosoms. Her eyes trailed upward and downward, slowly examining the entire figure of mine thoroughly before settling upon my face. "What?" This time, I imitated her with narrowing eyes. Irritated, Saya stomped her foot angrily. Her cheeks flushed red from embarrassment. "And nothing." She snapped back at me. Then muttered softly afterward. "You've changed somehow." "Really? How?" I asked curiously. "Well. Why, you know. You seem different lately. Like why you became manlier or something." "No. That doesn't make sense." Saya stuttered awkwardly, unable to express her thoughts clearly. "You mean appearance-wise?" After hearing my reply, Saya furrowed her brow, trying hard to find a proper word describing changes occurring within myself. We only knew each other for 2 weeks, including school days, yet she noticed something about me? Oh. Right. The power of sex could change someone drastically. This might be a bit weird, but it was undeniable. She must have felt it when I ravished her yesterday. Was I too rough? I chuckled internally, thinking of the possibility that a young innocent schoolgirl such as herself ended up enjoying intense sexual activity without realizing the consequences involved. It wasn't me who changed, but her perspective. If you can't put it into words, then don't force yourself. "I understand your feelings," I replied nonchalantly. "TCH, of course, you do." Saya scoffed, rolling her eyes sarcastically. "But yeah. Never mind. I just wanted to ask about your next plan, that's all." With a huff, she turned and walked away, leaving me alone on the rooftop balcony overlooking the vast ocean beyond the horizon. A moment later, however, she stopped halfway through the door leading inside the hangar building behind us. "Oh right, I forgot to tell you something important," Saya added while turning around, Senior Sako told me to call you downstairs later. My sister? I tilted my head sideways. What did she need? I dunno. Anyway, it's probably urgent, Saya shrugged casually. I wonder if she needs something from me. Well, I would know if I met her. She should be maintaining our swords on the Humvee. I went down to meet her. Just as expected, she sat on the Humvee's hood, polishing my katana carefully with smooth circular motions. Upon seeing my arrival, Sako put the weapon down slowly before giving me a soft smile. Sorry for interrupting you when you're resting. That's all right. I shrugged and waved my hand dismissively. Did you need me for something? Ah. Sako lowered her eyelids briefly and looked elsewhere uncomfortably, seemingly struggling whether or not to continue speaking further or not. I just wanted to ask where we are going to go. I know that we're going overseas, but you haven't specified our destination yet. Ah. I nodded knowingly and sat across her. We're heading to the U.S. Miss Shizuka's friend, whose house had weapons we currently use, is in the U.S. Not to mention, father and mother are also there, so... I paused for a moment, thinking deeply. We can go there. Or so I thought. I concluded and leaned backward. I see. Sako replied flatly. It felt weird. She seemed tenser compared usual self. Did she want to stay here instead? Perhaps she had another idea in her mind regarding future actions? Seeing no reaction from her, I scratched my cheek and continued talking. You know, I had a plan to rebuild the society before this disaster happened. I planned to make a name for myself and prove my worth. Hee, is that so? Sako chuckled quietly. You were talking as if it's a past tense. Did you find a new goal? Or did you realize something? Something alongside the latter. No normalcy would return in the end. Normal society wouldn't return unless T-virus disappeared completely. I wasn't a specialist. Only a miracle worker could fix everything to its original state. But, well, at least we're all alive. I said, and I will make sure we will only die of old age. Die? Old age? That sounds ridiculous. Sako grinned broadly, shaking her head gently back forth. What's so funny? I questioned exasperatedly. Don't laugh like that. I'm sorry. But you know better than anyone else that we aren't immortal. We all will die eventually. There's nothing funny about it really. I think I've come to realize certain truths since the apocalypse started. Sako giggled lightly to herself as if reminiscing past memories fondly. It feels like ages ago. When we woke up side by side and went to school together. She added softly after taking a deep breath. Her words hit home instantly, reminding me of the reality I lived in every day before this. A normal life full of peace and freedom unlike what existed nowadays. People became comfortable with the word apocalypse in my modern world. There were many media, novels, movies, or even comics depicting it. Still, none depicted how it truly was, the fear and desperation, how chaotic and confusing the situation could be. Nothing came close enough except actual experience itself. The sight that I saw in the convenience store earlier was one of them. A person could become so cruel that they would cut another person's limbs and leave them in a storage room along with a chained zombie. Giving that person a quick death might be a mercy, but I didn't want to risk myself by going inside or shoot that person. That convenience store was silent, so even my suppressed gun would be loud enough to draw zombies' attention. Risking my companion over giving a stranger a quick mercy? I didn't think that's worth it. He would also die in a few minutes anyway. Whether I killed him or not. I glanced back toward Sako once again, noticing that she polished the sword again. She assembled the katana once more and handed it to me. Here, it's yours. I took the sword and examined it closely. Perfect? Even sharper than before. Even without maintenance oil, the result is excellent. I should buy the oil from my shop when we are out in the sea. We would move in the morning after resting. No love-making session tonight. Chapter 62, Finding Ship. Morning arrived. I drank a lukewarm coffee as I woke up and went to the balcony once again as the others were still sleeping. Being on a higher floor, the wind felt colder. The groans of zombies outside the hangar made the day in this apocalypse. Without them, I would think this was a normal morning with a gentle sunlight. It's annoyingly noisy. Those living dead people really liked the sea. They wandered toward the shore and fell one after another into the ocean as if they were possessed by suicidal demons. After looking at it, I noticed something in the distance. Something colorful floating on the water surface. I think it's a ship. A small yacht stranded not far from the airport, maybe a few meters from the nearest port. I stared at the ship quietly, trying to assess the situation. That's an odd color, pink. It was a yacht with vibrant colors painted all over its hull and decks resembling those of carnival floats usually seen during festive occasions. But how could a yacht get stranded? It wasn't too far away from the edge, but there are too many zombies around it. I need some ways to clear the zombies around the edge first. But even then, I would need to jump into the sea to reach the yacht, and that was dangerous. The height of the edge from the water was around 10 meters. If I were alone, or only with Siko, we could jump without a problem, but Saya and Miss Shizuka might break their bones if we jump from such height. We also need to move the fuel we brought as well as our supplies from the Humvee, so it seems we need to take a detour. From what I could see, we could use the beach path, but that would require us to go to the end of the runway and then circled back. If we manage to reach the end, it should be easy to swim toward the yacht. I guess it's time to use one of the fireworks. I could hear footsteps from behind. It seemed like everyone had awakened. Soon, they joined me in staring at the ocean below us. Saya whistled loudly before commenting excitedly, "Look at that yacht. Is that the one we will ride?" she asked curiously. "Wow, it's pink," Miss Shizuka commented. "Such a beautiful color. It reminds me of bubblegum candy." Siko giggled happily whilst looking at the yacht too. "Brother, it looks nice," she said cheerfully, glancing toward me with a warm smile plastered on face. I knew they were trying to tease me because the perfect boat we found was pink in color. "So what do you think?" Saya asked sarcastically. "Can you drive such a pretty ship?" "Sure, I can," I retorted playfully, although I would prefer one that isn't bright pink. "But yeah. Beggar can't be chooser." They laughed together merrily upon hearing my response. And so we prepared to go. When preparing, I explained the route we would take to Miss Shizuka. I also prepared the firework that would be used for distraction. Our chance to succeed was big, or so I hoped. "Is everything ready?" I asked them. "All set." All three women present replied simultaneously, each carrying a backpack filled with essential items they needed to survive, including food and water. It was all done in case we couldn't return to Humvee and had to move directly to the yacht. Miss Shizuka started the Humvee's engine. Vroom. The vehicle began moving slowly as the door opened. I prepared near the door to kill the zombies attracted by the sound. When the zombies got close, they attacked, and I stabbed their heads one by one with my sword. There weren't many zombies, so we soon cleared the road outside, allowing Miss Shizuka to move again. "Get on, brother," Siko shouted at me. I quickly jumped on and closed the door as soon as possible. Miss Shizuka steered the Humvee again, accelerating fast to reach the runway. Many zombies noticed the noise and gave chase from behind, although none came in front of us thanks to the Humvee's intimidating size. "Start moving toward the beach," I instructed. "Saya, the fireworks. On it." Miss Shizuka stepped on the gas pedal harder, making tires screech violently against the asphalt. At that time, Saya lit a firework and pointed it toward the other side of the airport. Whoosh! An explosion rang loudly, followed shortly afterward by colorful trails streaking upwards into the runway before exploding again with a loud bang. Bang. Bam. Crackle. Boom. Such explosions caught the attention of countless shambling creatures roaming nearby airport grounds, causing their attention to shift away from the Humvee. They ran toward the loud noise like a moth toward flames. "It works," Saya said excitedly. Her expression turned smugger after witnessing the effectiveness of her handiwork. The zombie crowd dispersed quickly, leaving our path relatively free from obstacles, allowing our Humvee to move through the runway easily. Finally, we reached the beach. No zombies around. "We got lucky," Miss Shizuka exclaimed joyfully, slowing down slightly. "Yes, but our work hasn't finished yet," I warned, scanning the surrounding area cautiously through windows. There were still zombies in the sea and we couldn't get rid of them all unless we shot every single one. Most of them had already drowned when falling from the cliff above. Some died quickly due to being unable to swim well enough, while others struggled fruitlessly in shallow depths. Unfortunately, there remained several individuals stubbornly clinging to life by staying afloat. Those would need some clean headshots. "Wait here. Saya, can you shoot a crossbow?" I asked curiously. These zombies couldn't move a lot in the water, so they were perfect for target practice. I wanted Saya to be able to protect herself too. "I've never done it," she answered nervously. I handed the crossbow to her. "Then learn it. I'll help you. I can't always be nearby to protect you." "Oh, okay." Her voice trailed off uncertainty before continuing quietly, "Show me how." "What a bad liar." I snorted silently. Her acting skill wasn't high enough to trick me. She was nervous and afraid but still pushed herself because she wanted me to rely on her a little bit more, and I respected that effort greatly. Chapter 63, Saya's Training. We moved closer to the cluster of zombies. I guided her hands and taught her properly about shooting the crossbow while holding her in my arm. Her hand trembled in fear. "Calm down," I whispered softly, massaging her shoulder gently to relieve tension building up inside muscles throughout the entire body, causing anxiety symptoms. Eventually, after several moments passed, Saya relaxed completely. Then I began explaining the basics step by step, starting from aiming process up till trigger mechanism activation procedures. Just press this part. I gently poked between her fingers, aim through the scope. She followed my instructions diligently without uttering a single word, nodding periodically every now and then whenever she understood what I meant. And then, whoosh! The bolt pierced through the zombie's skull cleanly. Its corpse floated aimlessly beneath waves lapping rhythmically against shoreline rocks nearby. Saya screamed loudly in excitement. Yeah. I did it. Good girl. I patted her head lightly. Despite not being trained extensively prior to the apocalypse event happening, she learned quickly. This time, I still helped her, guiding her arms as she pulled the trigger. But don't lower your guard. Quickly reload the arrow. The zombies are coming here due to your voice. Kaya. 3 zombies managed to surface on the beach. Luckily, they were slow enough, giving enough time to reload. Or it was supposed to be so. Saya struggled to pull the string. She even cursed out loud, but to no avail. This was the crossbow's weakness. It took time to reload, around a few seconds. Normal people like Saya would even take more than that, especially when panicked. To those who said the crossbow was a good weapon for the zombie apocalypse, try to reload one first. This was why guns were better, because even normal people could reload it easily with a bit of practice. Use the handgun on your holster. It's better to change to a revolver when the zombies are approaching. Saya hurriedly pulled her handgun and fired randomly toward the nearest zombie. I didn't hold her back, letting her practice how to fight herself, but I was ready to slash when a zombie got too close. Bang bang. 2 bullets flew toward the zombie, one hitting the head while the other missed. Aim steadily, don't pull the trigger if you aren't sure that you will hit it. And most importantly, I waited until the zombies got close, slashing their necks when they entered my range. Take care of your surroundings. I finished my advice. There was no point in shooting randomly, wasting bullets on pointless actions. If she ever found herself facing multiple opponents at once, especially when dealing with slow zombies like this, conserving ammunition and avoiding being surrounded should always come first priority above anything else. But that was enough training. I quickly took care of the zombies approaching us. After killing some, it seemed there were no more zombies. I pulled a flashbang from my vest and threw it as far as I could. Because I used full strength, it traveled over 100 meters in the distance in just 2 seconds before exploding with a loud sound accompanied by bright light. That would handle the zombie that got attracted by Saya's gunshot. With everything taken care of, I looked at her and asked, "How do you feel?" Breathing heavily, Saya looked at me with eyes full of complaints. "Worst." "Great. That means you're alive." I smirked, ruffling her hair playfully, causing her cheeks to redden immediately. Saya's face contorted angrily but remained quiet afterwards. We returned to the Humvee and began to prepare for swimming. Our backpack would also act as a floating device, so we would carry them on our back. Ideally, only I had to go to the yacht and bring it closer, and so I suggested that. However, "You have done too much for us, brother. Let me swim to the yacht and bring it closer." Siko unexpectedly disagreed. "You saved our lives multiple times now. Let me help. I want to do something as your sister." Sure, okay." I nodded dumbfoundedly. Honestly, I didn't expect such an insistence from Siko. I asked whether she could drive a boat, and she answered that she could. It was relatively easier than planes anyway. After that, I gave her enough fuel in her backpack, just around 1 liter in a PET bottle, while she took off her clothes, leaving her in black-laced bras and sexed thong. She grinned smugly after noticing my hungry stare. "See you later." Splash. Without waiting longer, she dived into water and swam swiftly toward the ship. I had to bear a suspicious gaze from Saya. "TCH, pervert." I rolled my eyes. Yes, said someone who begged me to fuck her hard in the library while moaning loudly. Saya's face reddened immediately. She sputtered incomprehensibly and slapped my chest repeatedly while shouting profanities at me. Of course, I simply dodged all blows thrown her way. "Stop saying nonsense." She roared furiously at me before pointing angrily towards the yacht on the sea. "Just focus on protecting Senior Siko." "I am." "You're distracting me," I said nonchalantly, observing everything on the water through the crossbow's scope. Miss Shizuka giggled at our antics, while Saya turned around with pouty lips. Fortunately, there were still no zombies around Siko. She swam pretty fast, and perhaps she could even win a medal in the Olympics for her amazing swim ability. Maybe. Siko climbed the ladder and waved at us from the yacht. "Phew, she arrived safely," Miss Shizuka said while clapping her hand in relief. "Yeah. Now, let's watch her start the boat engine." Not long after, I saw Siko entering the cockpit. The pink yacht moved slightly to the left. It worked. I smiled happily. Slowly, Sako operated the yacht and moved it here. She didn't put the fuel I gave her, so the ship must have had some left before getting abandoned by its previous owner. When the yacht got closer, I noticed that we might fit the Humvee in the back area. Moreover, there was a ramp there, possibly for jet ski. We could put the Humvee in that spot and use the ramp to carry the Humvee from the edge of the beach. We can bring the car in, I said. That's awesome news, Saya commented enthusiastically. Fortunately, no more zombies appear, although I thought we might meet some on the sea when sailing. I couldn't be more careful than now. Chapter 64, Sea Life. Sako parked the yacht not far from the beach and lowered the ramp, as if knowing what I wanted to say. With our Humvee's horsepower, it should be able to pass it. Miss Shizuka drove carefully across the ramp, aligning herself perfectly with the narrow space available ahead of her. As expected, the width of the yacht was capable of fitting the bulky vehicle. With careful movements, it succeeded in boarding the ship without damaging anything in sight. Perfect? She exclaimed joyfully after completing the task. That should be more than enough space. After parking our ride securely on the yacht, I went upstairs and met Sako. She wrapped her arms around my neck and pressed her wet body against mine intimately while standing on tiptoes. "Oh, brother," she cooed affectionately. Her sweet breath caressed my earlobe sensually. "Did you enjoy watching me?" Separating away from me, she posed seductively. Her hand on her hip, highlighting her beautifully curve. The water dripped down her sexy nape to her large boobs, trapped between them before continuing to flow through her smooth stomach and down to her barely covered private part. My dick stirred, asking me to claim her right now. "Control yourself." I breathed in slowly and exhaled deeply several times before replying calmly, "Yeah, of course, sis." I walked closer until our faces separated by a few inches. My eyes locked firmly onto her own captivating violet irises shining brightly under the sunlight. Our faces were so dangerously close together, almost kissing distance apart. My heartbeat rose rapidly. In contrast, hers remained calm and composed like the serene surface of an endless pool of pure crystalline waters. Then, "What are you doing?" Saya's voice rang loudly from the side. And I kissed Sako while pulling her closer to me. My hand on her boob and ass, kneading them passionately, eliciting a muffled moan from her. "Pervert." We both glanced at the pinkette while our tongues intertwined sensually, exchanging saliva freely amidst each passing moment. Only breaking the kiss after a few seconds. At this point, Saya covered her face with her hands. However, the gaps between her fingers betrayed her curiosity. Smirking, Sako spoke first. "Foo-fa-foo, isn't this normal? Brother has always helped us with his reliable dick." Her tone became husky while whispering to me naughtily. "Don't you agree, brother?" "Yeah. It's natural to make babies after securing our safety. We need to make sure humanity survives by creating lots of them," I replied jokingly. "Right?" Sako giggled. "I'd love to have your baby, brother." "Why you?" Saya pointed her finger accusatively before approaching me. She tiptoeing to match my height. Her face contorted with anger. "It's not appropriate to talk about things like that." "How shameless." "Why? Am I wrong?" I crossed my arm. "Yes, you are. There is no reason for us to create a baby in the middle of this disaster." "What kind of man are you?" "One that made you moans." "Hyan." I jokingly slapped her butt and she let out a cute yelp. Her face reddened in embarrassment and anger. "Pervert." "I don't mind making babies too." Miss Shizuka chimed in as she entered the bride. "But aren't we going to sail right now?" "I have filled the tank." "Right, we were still on the shore." This wasn't the time for messing around. With a quick command to Sako, the yacht's motor turned on again. It was time for us to sail. Vroom. The wind blew strongly as the yacht cruised steadily across vast open blue sea stretching beyond horizon. Waves crashed against the pink yacht creating rhythmic sound accompanying gentle rocking sensation beneath our feet. Warm sunlight bathed us warmly from above. Everything felt surreal. Right now, Sako was in charge of driving. We created a 1-hour shift. This yacht wouldn't sail automatically, so we needed to watch where the ship sailed. Before setting off, we checked everything inside the ship first, including cabins and storage. We found some canned foods and water, but strangely no one was inside. Though, there were photos of the owner. A couple in their late 30s and early 40s. The two looked happy together. "I will use your yacht to escape from Japan." I apologized in my heart. Maybe the couple was afraid of the zombies and made a terrible mistake leaving the yacht. Hence, they got zombified and wandered somewhere out there. But it was fortunate for us, wasn't it? I lay down on a recliner on deck and relaxed myself fully. Slurp. I opened my eyes and looked down. My cock was unexpectedly in Saya's mouth. She knelt down in front of me, only wearing pink panties, and bobbed her head rhythmically. My hardening length pushed deeper into her throat. MMMPPGHHMNGH. Tits? My erection got enveloped in a soft embrace. I felt those familiar pairs of meat pillows moving up and down on my crotch. What are you doing? I asked as I lifted myself, prompting Saya to pull herself from my cock. It's not like I'm enjoying this, why you know. She answered nervously whilst averting gaze shyly. Besides, you didn't wear anything and got an erection, so you think it's a good idea to give me pizori and blowjobs? And no. Stuttering weakly under my scrutiny, she stopped talking altogether shortly afterwards and simply stared awkwardly at my cock. I chuckled at her answer. She was so cute. When I slapped her butt earlier, I could feel her excitement through her clothes. She was a bit wet when she watched me making out with Siko. Shut up and accept it, idiot. She ordered, shoving my member between her big boobs again. Her lewd expression betrayed her words, however. Pleasure coursed through my veins whenever those pillowy mounds rubbed against sensitive parts of my shaft deliciously. MNGH. Saya groaned cutely. Her eyes focused intently on the task at hand. Massaging my rod lodged between her boobs. She improved a lot since the first time. I held her head softly, encouraging her further. Her face reddened visibly under my attention but continued nonetheless. We locked our stare at each other as she continued stroking me expertly with those incredible tits alone. She slurped messily from tip all the way down to base while constantly keeping eye contact. This allowed me to witness firsthand just how erotic and sexy she really was during these acts. Before long, I could feel an impending orgasm rising deep within myself. My breathing quickened considerably as pleasure intensified throughout my entire body. I am about to come. Take it all inside your mouth or on your boobs. She paused momentarily hearing my words then resumed pumping faster than ever before. I shot thick ropes of seed straight into her mouth without warning, causing some excess spillage onto her chest. But nevertheless, she still kept sucking regardless until nothing remained inside. Chapter 65, No Zombies, Good Life MMMGHHHH. A muffled sound escaped her lips followed by loud slurping noise. She kept sucking my cock until I finished spilling everything inside her mouth. Pulling away, she opened her mouth showing a large amount of semen before gulping loudly. Then, she showed me that nothing was left, which looked so lewd. So delicious, she said lustfully, licking remaining droplets dripping down corner of her mouth afterwards. That indeed looks delicious. Kaya. Miss Shizuka's voice rang from behind me, surprising Saya who was still kneeling before me. I turned around and saw the nurse wearing a string blue swimsuit. Her boobs jiggled when she moved. Giggling, she also knelt in front of me, blowing cold air to my erect cock. The sudden sensation made my cock twitch. Foo-fa-foo, let me show you how to give a good pizori. My cock slid between her massive pair of breasts and disappeared immediately. Her bosom eclipsed my shaft entirely. Wow, I swallowed. Saya widened her eyes in surprise. She stared in awe at what Miss Shizuka just did effortlessly. Enjoy watching, Saya-chan. Miss Shizuka smiled at the young woman beside her. And so, she started moving. Oh. The softness felt totally different from Saya's. If hers felt like a pillow, Miss Shizuka's was heaven itself. Just the perfect kind of plumpness. Unlike Saya's small and slim figure, Miss Shizuka possessed a curvaceous voluptuous body combined with a large rack jutting proudly. A goddamn sexy woman, I had to say. It looked mesmerizing. Even I was captivated seeing it rubbing my cock sensually. It seems like you enjoy it a lot. Saya complained sourly after catching glimpses of my expressions. Hey, it doesn't matter, though. He would choose me sooner or later, she added confidently. Sure. Come here. I chuckled and pulled her closer, pinching her nipple and earning a delightful squeak from her. She pouted and squirmed as I continued fondling her breasts playfully. Then, I shoved my finger into her slit and explored inside of her, MMNHG. Her breath grew heavier every time I inserted my digit further into her wet pussy. Not satisfied with that, I began to suck her erect nipple, playing with it using tongue. Foo-fa-foo, I am jealous that you give Saya attention. Miss Shizuka pouted cutely. I guess I will end this fast and get my share. Saying so, she squeezed her boobs using her hands, applying force while pressing my cock even deeper inside the valley. It felt like I was being milked. Her boobs felt warm against skin, her saliva provided excellent lubrication. She picked up pace, gradually accelerating each stroke. The pleasure increased tenfold compared to earlier attempts. Her movements became smoother and faster. Meanwhile, Saya's moan got louder. Damn. I am so close. Are you about to come? Miss Shizuka asked sweetly whilst glancing upwards expectantly. Yes. I replied shortly. Both of my hands were occupied with fingering Saya and twisting her nipple alternatively. I see. She smiled knowingly and proceeded to increase her teasing once more. Come on, come inside my big breasts, shoot your thick seed on me, make sure every drop goes straight into my cleavage. As if hypnotized by those seductive words coming out of her mouth, my cock throbbed intensely and shot thick streams of sperm all over her chest without restraint. MNNGGHHH. Miss Shizuka gasped loudly as spurts of sticky fluid landed directly on her chest and dribbled down towards lower regions below. Kaya. I ignored Saya's scream as I thrust upward forcefully, sending jets of semen directly against Miss Shizuka's breasts and chin. The thick ropes splattered across her large bust, leaving traces behind as evidence of ejaculation completed. Saya collapsed weakly next to the busty blonde as she squirted. Her eyes dazed, legs quivering uncontrollably. A blonde covered in cum and pink yet drenched in her own juices lay sprawled nearby me. It was such a breathtakingly arousing scene. Something forbidden yet tantalizingly tempting, enticing me greatly. My conscience told me that I shouldn't indulge further, however my primal instincts screamed otherwise, urging me onward. No one besides us was in this vast ocean. Nothing prevented me from taking advantage of the situation presented before my eyes. No witnesses nor repercussions whatsoever. All worries evaporated instantaneously, replaced by sheer animalistic instinct driving me forth towards the ultimate goal set ahead. Procreation. But, unfortunately, there were chores I had to do. Phew, let's stop here for a bit. I breathed out slowly. It's time for me to steer the ship. Foo-fa-foo, okay. Miss Shizuka giggled, scooping my cum from her cleavage and licked it, but I won't let you escape like this. I also want proper service, you know. Humphrey. I guess I'll help too. Don't expect anything from me, oh okay? Another busy day ahead. It's so damn good. I smiled and moved to the bridge after putting on my pants. Suko was driving it with nothing but black micro bikini covering her slim body. Sis, time to change. Oh, is it time? She looked at me. Her beautiful purple eyes stared at me lovingly, making me unable to take mine off her beauty. Very well. Brother, please stand there. Nodding obediently, I positioned myself next to the wheel, holding it lightly to stabilize the ship course. And then, for some reason, she knelt in front of me and pulled my pants, freeing my cock that was still dirty by saliva and semen. I looked down and she stared at me while licking her lips hungrily. Did you think I would miss their loud moans? I also want your semen, brother. Saying so, she kissed the tip gently, tasting my member. Oh, yeah, the wall separating the bride and the outside weren't exactly soundproof, and there weren't curtains either. I guess my little brother had to work hard satisfying these hungry hyenas. And so I controlled the ship while getting ahead from my beloved sister. Life in the apocalypse was so damn good as long as there was a sexy moan and not a zombie's groan. Chapter 66, Abandoned Coastal City. I wasn't a genius at controlling ships or reading maps, but I knew it was impossible to reach the US in a few days through sea travel in a yacht. Not to mention the ocean's condition, we also didn't have enough fuel to travel that far. That said, it wouldn't hurt to find some island on the way and restock some supplies. Furthermore, it wouldn't be bad living on an uninhabited island if we found one. That was the best scenario anyway. But if we couldn't find one, we would die of thirst before we could reach anywhere inhabited. Talking about that, I was faced with a few choices on the boat, one that involved sexual activities with the girl. They were hungry for me, always attacking me except for when we were sleeping. As a result, my points and status increased slightly. Name, Busujima. Strength, 30, Agility, 32, Stamina, 35, Dexterity, 29. Skills, Busujima. Swordsmanship, Intermediate, Marksmanship, Intermediate, Sex Arts, Intermediate. Shop points, 2,985p. My points returned to when we were about to depart. The one that grew the most was my stamina, mainly thanks to the girls. I'd like to get such easy choices again, but that's not possible. We were low on fuel and were forced to find a stop. In the end, I had to stop the ship after a week in the sea. Where are we? Miss Shizuka asked as we stepped on the land. Civilizations were present, and we seemed like we were in a coastal city or something like that. Looking around, I saw some sign written in a foreign language, a distinct one that I immediately recognized. Somewhere in Russia. I answered. Russia, huh? Saya remarked with a disinterested tone. She walked beside me while checking her surroundings cautiously, crossbow ready for immediate use whenever necessary. It's near Japan, so I guess that's about right. Do you know where exactly, brother? No, sorry. But I guess we can find some communication devices here. I need to contact someone so they can pick us up around Alaska. I planned to contact Miss Rika so she could send a helicopter for us. Unfortunately, the phone batteries had gone empty, so we could only wait until we found a recharging station. Will someone be able to pick us up? Saya asked suspiciously. If we're lucky, Yes. I nodded. We can use the parasite we found in that underground lab as a reward for them picking us up. The US Army would definitely be interested in something new. I doubt they haven't uncovered any of the virus origin yet. In other words, there's still no guarantee whether they'll come or not. Siko frowned uneasily. What should we do if it doesn't work out? Worst case scenario, we will use Humvee to go to the US through land route. But before that, let's get some fuel and a phone. Saya, can you try to use the radio to have contact with the US Army? If you are connected, ask them about Minami Rika and mention my or Miss Shizuka's name. Humphrey. So I am a stay-at-home wife without a job again. Nope, you will be needed here to explain many things to the US government. I trust you with that. If you say so, then I guess I will have to do it. Also, do your best securing the fuel then. Saya ordered haughtily. Despite her attitude, she looked pleased. I chuckled seeing her face and gave her a kiss. And she moaned briefly. She returned to the yacht floating in the sea and stayed there, waiting for anyone to respond to her call. What about me then? Miss Shizuka inquired curiously. You can come with us. We will stop by the pharmacy, so take anything useful for our trip. Like fever meds and others. Foo-foo, okay. I will make sure to stock any pregnancy pills too. I never mentioned that, but if she wanted to prepare one, why not? Who knows what happened during our trip? Siko smiled at me brightly after listening to my response to Miss Shizuka. I will escort you, Miss Shizuka. I need to get a menstruation pad too. That will help me a lot. Then I will find the fuel. I said. Which meant I would have to move by myself. Great, just something I needed now. We went our separate way to scavenge items. For fuel, I guess the nearby gas station would have them. Anything that could run a yacht was good, especially diesel or kerosene. If those weren't available, gasoline could also be used, although the engine needed to be cleaned frequently after. Furthermore, extra gas containers should come handy if encountered trouble later along the journey ahead. There was no telling what might happen during our trip, thus being prepared beforehand always paid off greatly. Armed with a katana strapped around the waist, a handgun holstered inside the chest holster, and 2 hand grenades on my vest, I ventured forward through mostly empty streets littered by wreckage caused by the initial outbreak several weeks ago. This place reminded me of a battlefield I saw in some war news. Buildings crumbled under explosions inflicted upon walls surrounding them. Rubble lay strewn haphazardly amongst debris everywhere. Deformed corpses clad in military uniform littered everywhere among zombies' bodies. Seemed like Russians had hard times evacuating from their country as well. From the look of it, they even used tanks to clear zombies. And yet, they lost. This is terrible. I muttered aloud while staring bleakly towards the ruins. In a place like this, zombies wouldn't be the biggest problem. It would be the survivors, desperate people surviving only God knows how. Starvation, dehydration, and diseases ran rampant in situations like this. More than 2 weeks had passed since the outbreak, making this the most sensitive time when their supplies had dwindled and they were forced to search for more. Some might resort to raiding others' homes and businesses just to obtain bare necessities needed to merely survive another day longer. Such actions led inevitably towards conflict between factions vying control over limited resources available. Violence ensued everywhere unchecked, resulting in many casualties every passing moment. The longer we stayed here, the greater risk posed against ourselves. Make your choice. 1. Find a gas station quickly and bring back fuel. Reward, 50 shop points. 2. Mall seems like a good choice. Maybe it has everything? Reward, 75 shop points. 3. Maybe a dock warehouse would have some fuel. Reward, 150 shop points. 4. Take it easy and explore the place for anything useful. Reward, 250 shop points. Well, shit. Chapter 67, Flee or Fight. Why was exploring this dangerous area the highest reward? Knowing the system, the higher the reward, then the higher the risk for me and my companion. I needed to collect points to buy the zombie serum in case of an emergency, but I also didn't want to take too much risk before arriving in the US. My original objective was to find the fuel quickly. However, going to the mall and the dock warehouse also sounded nice. At least we could secure more supplies, including food. Choices 1 and 3 was a straightforward method to get fuel, and I would get them in a short time. No. Playing safe would be better. I decided to trust my instinct this time and went to the gas station. I could already see it from where I was standing, so I sprinted there at full speed. There was nothing worth noting except some lone zombie wandering aimlessly, and I could easily ignore them. Huff. Huff. Phew. Ding. You have received 50 shop points. When I arrived there, it was deserted. No presence of either humans nor zombies could be seen anywhere nearby. However, Broken glass windows indicated someone had been scavenging here earlier. Gas station was completely abandoned, and the cars blocked access into pumps by barricading the entryway. Fortunately, the fuel hadn't been siphoned. There was an electric pump that seemed intact and working properly despite lack of power supply elsewhere. I quickly bought 4x20 liters containers from my shop for 10 points and filled them using a hose connected to said pump. I had no time finding them because I was worried about Saya. Once filled, I grabbed both containers under armpit, each containing around 19 liters of diesel total, enough for a few hundred kilometers distance traveled depending on conditions. With my strength, carrying those heavy containers was nothing. Although, carrying too much would leave me open and I couldn't fight with my sword. But that's enough for us to go further. We would find another gas station along the way. Taking Saya and leaving the yacht alone wasn't an option either. It could be taken by people who thought they could use it to escape. I immediately returned to the beach afterward where Sako and Miss Shizuka already waited for me. Seeing them, I sighed in relief knowing that they managed to acquire what needed without incident occurring during the process. Both women carried backpacks filled with medicine, bandages, contraceptives, etc., basically anything useful enough to ensure survival in the apocalyptic world we lived in right now. They stood beside Humvee parked nearby shore next to our ship. That was fast. Did you get what you wanted? Yup. I responded, showing them my containers. These should suffice. And we should get out of here soon. Sensing my serious words, Sako nodded. We moved inside the yacht. There, I stored the fuel tank inside and put the empty container on the side. Then I went to the bridge to see Saya concentrate trying to get a connection through the radio. HMMPH. After a moment, she turned toward us, smiling broadly. Just a bit more and I will get a connection. I was connected to something earlier and I think it's an army. Seems like they are also looking for survivors too. She announced excitedly before adding somberly. As if mocking me, the choice appeared again for the second time. Make your choice. 1. Screw the communication and leave the island. Reward, 100 shop points. 2. Stay a bit longer to wait for the communication to connect. This might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Reward, 200 shop points, so it came to this. Based on the choice, it was either prioritizing our safety or took some risk to get connected with the US Army. I didn't need to think much about this. How long do you think it will take? I asked. Not long. Maybe 1 or 2 hours and we will connect to them. Saya answered. That was long. If I were the survivor who saw a running yacht like this, I would surely be interested. Especially in this city ruins where everything seemed to be out of energy. The chance to have attention from everyone was too big. Still, having a connection to the US Army would make our trip safer, wouldn't it? Maybe I could trade some information about the virus for security or something. After all, information was also valuable during crisis. After thinking for a bit, I made my choice. Let's stay then. Have Miss Shizuka near you so she can give you water or food if you need it. I will stay outside with my sister to protect the ship. I trusted Saya for handling this. Ding. You have received 200 shop points, I explained it to both Miss Shizuka and Sako. The former happily obeyed and brought water and food, leaving only me and my sister on the dock. At that moment, I told her about the danger lurking nearby, which might attack us at any second. The survivors might have guns, so we need to be ready. I said, preparing my rifle. I had 4 full magazines and 40 remaining bullets in the box. If we were attacked, I needed to be bold. Hesitation would lead to death. Those desperate survivors weren't zombies. They would act intelligently. Let's hide in the bow area, using the shadows. Also, don't shoot unless I say so. I advised sternly. Sako simply listened obediently, following me wherever we went. Once hidden, I watched patiently for movement from afar, hoping perhaps luck favored our side this once today, but alas. Not even 5 minutes passed when I saw a person behind a building, seemingly observing us from a safe distance away. Then another popped up next to him, soon followed by a third individual emerging alongside the first 2 observers. 2 of them ran back inside the building after nodding to each other, possibly informing the others. I could shoot them right now, but that would alert them that we had guns. The best way was to wait until they gathered and killed them all. It could also give us more guns for us to use. I saw 3 of them, more might come soon. I will prioritize shooting those with guns, so I will leave whoever gets close to you, sis. Of course, don't come out from this place before I kill them all. That would be dangerous. Foo-fa-foo, I believe in brother's skill. I am sure you can wipe them all without problem. Of course. In the middle of my reply, 2 guys emerged from the building. One man wielded a baseball bat while another clutched a crowbar tightly across chest. Both men approached cautiously. Following closely behind these first groups, 10 additional individuals trailed along quietly. Unlike previous arrivals, however, this particular bunch wore masks concealing identity and armed themselves heavily, ranging from kitchen knives to large machetes. Their attire consisted of ragged clothes stained with dirt and grime covering the entire body. Most notably amongst the entire ensemble, however, 2 people in the back were holding AK-47, aiming at us. I already pointed my gun at them, proning down carefully on the yacht floor. The ones on the front didn't matter as long as I quickly neutralized the shooters first. A total of 14 people, we could do this. Still, I hoped their guns would be useful. Chapter 68, Requesting Pickup. I waited until the first group was a few meters away from the shooters before I pulled the trigger. The suppressed gunshot rang as the bullet hit his head. Before anyone could react, I aimed at the other gunner and pulled the trigger. The second gunshot rang out loudly, causing the heads of unfortunate victims to have an additional hole. They dropped to the ground with a loud thud, much to the others' confusion. At $! At $! Someone shouted something in Russian. I couldn't understand him, but the rage in his expression was apparent. He yelled angrily towards me. A few of them broke away, trying to get the guns. Others started to attack, closing the distance between us with their melee weapons in hand. Some held pistols ready to shoot when given the opportunity. Unfortunately, I had better weapons. I picked them one by one before they got too close. Those going for guns and those who had pistols. Even without being trained to use guns, pistols could kill people, and I needed to get rid of them fast. Bang! I shot the nearest pistol user in his face and he fell backward dead instantly. Then I turned attention towards the next target, who attempted to retrieve his fallen comrade's firearm. The bullet struck him square between eyes, killing instantly before falling limply onto pavement below him. Then I continued firing rapidly until only 4 guys trying to run toward our yacht remained. "Sis!" I called out as I pulled away from the scope. When I looked up, Siko had already moved. She leaped to the deck, sword unsheathed, and rushed toward the attackers with a terrifying grin on her beautiful face. Her speed was unmatched as she dashed past them without warning. In the blink of an eye, she pierced one of the men with her sword, kicking him away afterwards. The blood splashed on her face, coloring her white skin crimson red. The other 3 raged when they saw their companion got killed by a girl. One man raised his metal bat, charging at Siko furiously, attempting to strike her down with brute force alone. Another one slashed wildly with his machete. However, Siko blocked both blows simultaneously with ease and countered with a quick slash across throat. Blood sprayed everywhere, creating a pool of dark red liquid underneath the deceased attacker lying motionless in front of her feet. Next, Siko kicked another approaching assailant away, sending him crashing hard against a dock wall. He gasped for air briefly before looking up. All he could see was Siko's sinister expression, relishing the battle and murder. Her eyes twinkled in delight. Her black clothes covered in crimson droplets made her look like a devil, bathed in blood. The man did his best to shake his head violently, signaling surrender, but Siko wouldn't accept that kind gesture. She plunged her sword into his chest without hesitation. What was left in this dock was a single girl with a satisfied expression, one that looked pretty lewd in my opinion, and multiple corpses decorating the floor. She swung her sword and cleaned the blood left on the blade with clean clothes before sheathing it back. Her breathing labored after intense combat. "Good job, sis. Go to the bridge and rest while I take care of their guns." I greeted her with a light back on the lips. The taste of blood entered my tongue and she replied by sucking mine. "Yes, brother." She happily returned to the ship's bridge area after giving me a hug. After securing the area, I checked their belongings and looted the corpses. Among them, 5 guns in working order could be salvaged. 2 AK-47 and 3 Nagant M1895 revolvers, an upgrade from our current revolver. The handgun had 7 rounds instead of 5 and the power was far superior than our pistol. Unfortunately, they had no spare arrows for the guns beside the remaining one in the magazine, but I could solve that with my shop. Both of them also used 7.62 ammo, though the pistol needed a different type, so they couldn't share arrows with my current rifle. Maybe the AK-47 could, but I rather used the one that matched it. It's not like I only had 100 or 200 points now, I had more than 3,000. Great. This is a nice haul for us. Should I find their shelter and loot more? Nah, I had no idea how many there were, so it's better to stay here. I returned to the yacht and decided to check on Saya's progress. When I arrived, she was still concentrating with Miss Shizuka sitting on the side. Siko seemed to have taken a bath and changed her clothes, seeing she wasn't there. I decided to wait for Saya to finish outside, guarding the yacht from any incoming attack. And so I waited on top of the Humvee on guard duty. An hour passed with me listening to various sounds coming from the radio mixed together, forming static noise filling the entire space around me. Suddenly, voices came out clearly. BZZZZZ. KSSSH. BZZZT. Found signal. KRRHHT. We. BZZZTT. Reading. You. Hello. Anyone? Hello. After struggling with adjusting the antenna's position slightly for the next several seconds, the voice became clearer. This is the U.S. Army BZZT. Currently looking for Sir V. Can you hear me? Hello? It seemed like the connection still had problems, but it should be fine as long as we could understand each other. This is Takagi Saya from Russia speaking. We're Japanese evacuating to the USA. Requesting pickup around. Please help. Yes, hello. BZZT. We can read you. But pickup is impossible. Then contact Minami Rika from the Special Forces. Tell her that Busujima and Shizuka request a pickup in the Alaska area. We have valuable information about parasites and T-virus from Umbrella Corporation. The conversation paused for a while, making me a bit nervous. But then, another voice rang from the radio, one radiating authority. I've been monitoring the conversation. May I ask about your status? My status is. We managed to establish communication with the U.S. Army. Finally, I felt like a burden was lifted from my shoulders and we had a bright future ahead. Now all I needed was making sure they would fetch us somewhere safe. Roger. Please keep this frequency open to update your status. Roger that. And just like that, we finally succeeded in getting in touch with someone else after spending almost a week in the water. Chapter 69, once again, sea life. Good job, Saya. This thing is tiring. I need water. Miss Shizuka immediately gave her a mineral water bottle while massaging her shoulder gently. Ah, teacher. You don't need to do that. Foo-fa-foo, let me spoil my cute students. She giggled, her soft fingers touching Saya's nape, earning an illicit moan from her. Even when nothing erotic happened, Saya's sensitivity had increased from our non-stop week's play on the sea. That was a bit dangerous. You teacher, stop it. Saya groaned. Ignoring them, I went outside to refuel the yacht, pouring the contents of the fuel container to the fuel tank. I would need to fill all 4 20-liters containers every time I wanted to go full tank. If I drove slowly, using 1 liter for roughly 6 kilometers, one tank of 20 liters could last for 120 km. That will give us around 480 km to play with. Let's assume we only have 400 km and save the rest in case of emergency. I thought. Unfortunately, I had no map on the yacht. Maybe there were some around this coast, but we couldn't really go to land to find it now. What I needed was the internet and laptop or smartphone, which we didn't have right now. All I got was a compass. We can manage to last for 3 days with this fuel. Then I can use my shop to buy fuel if we need it, no need to risk stopping again. 20 liters fuel for 20 shop points, I say it's worth it. To reach our destination, we might need 2 to 3 more weeks. Staying in the sea meant we were relatively safe compared to the land where we would get attacked by the infected and survivors, though it didn't mean we were completely safe. If the engine got damaged due to the storm, then our trip would become even longer. I also assumed there might be zombies in the sea, something similar to the one Leon found in that lake in Resident Evil 4. Yeah, zombie sharks or crocodiles were scary. I hope they didn't exist. Anyway, it's time to continue our voyage. I went back to the cockpit to steer the ship after loosening the rope. When I saw no one but Miss Shizuka was in the cockpit, I questioned her. Where are the two? Saya went to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Sako went to the bedroom after taking a bath, saying that she's tired and wants to sleep. Humphrey, let's start then. I turned on the engine, readying my hands to maneuver the steering wheel. The vessel roared in response as I pushed the throttle forward and steered it into open water. Vroom. Looking back behind myself, I saw an endless horizon filled with nothingness spanning across the entire expanse beyond viewable distance. A vast blue expanse stretched out ahead of my gaze. Our goal lies somewhere beneath its calm surface awaiting us eagerly. While steering the wheel, Miss Shizuka stood next to me and asked, "Hey, why Alaska? It's impossible to cross the vast ocean with its weather changes and storms in the middle of the sea. Thus, instead of aiming for the U.S. directly, we should sail along the Siberia coast to North America. Fortunately, unlike the Pacific Ocean, the Arctic Sea seems calmer and it isn't too deep." I see. She nodded understandingly before asking another question. "Do you think Rika will be able to pick us?" Honestly, I didn't know. Our communication had been cut off since I sent the last message that we were going to the U.S. through the sea route. Whether she received it or not, I didn't know. Still, our communication with the U.S. Army earlier mentioned that they knew about us, so the chance was high that she knew and waited for us in Alaska. Let's hope so. I answered nonchalantly. If she doesn't came to pick us up, I will get mad at her and spank her ass. Miss Shizuka pumped her fists. Then, she looked at me, "Or do you want to be the one to do that?" That sounded so kinky, it made me hard down there. We spent the rest of the day chatting with her, talking about life and stuff like that while occasionally steering the yacht. When afternoon arrived, Siko entered the bridge with messy hair. She wore nothing at all, with a vibrator dangling in her pussy. "Sis?" I questioned her in surprise. Even Miss Shizuka was surprised upon seeing her. She looked so needy and sexy. Tiling her head, she looked at me and noticed where my gaze wandered off. Realizing this fact, she shyly spoke, "I fell asleep while masturbating." Her cheeks flushed pink as she stared downwards bashfully before continuing, "Brother, please service me. My pussy needs it desperately." Miss Shizuka giggled at this display while giving a playful wink toward us. "It seems I need to steer the ship. Leave it to me, I have seen how you do it, so it should be easy." Without wasting any further moment, I pushed my sister to the wall and raised her leg. The vibrator dangling on her wet pussy came off. I opened my zipper and my rod came free, throbbing violently. I touched the entrance of her wet vagina and rammed inside her without warning. HNNNGH. And so we fucked against the bridge wall while Miss Shizuka watched from the side. My sister's boobs bounced up and down forcefully in rhythm with every thrust I delivered into the depths. My tip reached her cervix and penetrated through the uterus area each passing moment. No need to mention, I finished inside her womb, planting a thick cream pea filling up her womb to brim, overflowing from the hole and running down inner thighs. With our mixed body fluids coating her lower parts thoroughly, I kissed Siku lovingly afterwards. "Hey brother. So rough, so good. Watching you both makes me so wet." Miss Shizuka giggled cutely. Her hand held the steering wheel while the other played with her pussy through her panties. Her tits swayed up and down in rhythm with the boat's movement. "Halud. You guys are busy. Geez." At that moment, Saya joined in, looking quite disgruntled as she did so. "Are you mad because you can't join?" Miss Shizuka giggled naughtily. "Saya-chan can be such perverts sometimes. Wah, that's not what I meant." In the end, she joined too. Chapter 70, Fishing and Arrival. Days passed quickly. I enjoyed daily casual life without any zombies attacking us constantly, occasionally engaging intimate activities amongst ourselves throughout our journey together. Every night I spent sleeping peacefully under the starry sky. And when I was bored, I spent time fishing instead. Because we also didn't wear clothes most of the time, and only doing minimum coverage for colds, we only needed a little water to wash them. We had more than enough reserves to last months. Though, we ended up eating fish instead of canned food. It was healthier anyway. "Oh, I got something," I announced joyfully as a sudden jerk yanked the line upward. "Sis, prepare the harpoon." "On it." Siko grabbed the harpoon connected to rope and waited. I reeled it back while struggling with the huge resistance. Whatever that was on the other end of the line was definitely big. However, it got closer as I kept reeling it. Its tail flipped above water, revealing the true size of the catch. Holy shit. This is the largest fish I have ever caught. With my current strength, battling huge fish was easier. The hard part was when it jumped up. It required more than normal strength to handle it. "Now." Siko stabbed the giant fish, and the harpoon sank into its flesh deeply. "Woo, nice catch." Miss Shizuka cheered enthusiastically. Saya shook her head in disbelief. "I swear you guys aren't normal anymore," she remarked disbelievingly. "This thing must weigh around 100 kilos or more and you are handling it like nothing." Geez. To be fair, Siko was the inhuman one. Without a system's help, she was still able to stab the fish without the risk of the harpoon falling down. She had improved greatly, surpassing even me, in fighting skill and strength. No wonder father chose her as the successor to learn our sword art. I grinned widely and pulled the line forcefully. It was heavy alright, but I still managed to lift it nonetheless thanks to my improved strength. Ding. You have received 25 shop points. Just like usual, the system wanted to mess with me by giving strange choices. This time, it was between eating 10 canned cans or eating the next fish that I would catch. Thankfully, I got a large, delicious-looking fish to eat. We're having sashimi this afternoon. I pulled the fish out of the water. It landed with a loud splash on the deck beside us. After measuring it with sight, I estimated around 60 centimeters. So big. Everyone gathered around to admire the size of this magnificent specimen we caught. Based on the color of the flesh, this might be a salmon. A perfect fish for sashimi. Later that afternoon, we feasted on freshly cut sashimi prepared by Miss Shizuka herself, who had become an expert cook after living together with us for weeks now. She sliced the raw fillets thinly before placing them neatly over the plate. Each piece glistened beautifully against light emitted from overhead lamps, illuminating the entire room brightly, making everything look delicious indeed. Not to mention, the sight of the girls enjoying the food in their sexy swimsuits despite the cold made everything better. However, even as we lived our lives in peace on the sea, there was one thing bothering me. No more communication from the U.S. Army arrived since a few days ago. Saya tried to connect a few times, but there were only noises. Wasn't it weird? Why didn't they contact us? Could it be that they lost our position? What should we do about this? Saya asked worriedly. Right, what should we do? The best thing that could happen is that someone else contacted us, preferably Rika. However, if no one contacted us, it was possible that the US also descended into chaos, especially if someone infected boarded a plane to US territory. Our safe haven suddenly transformed to hell itself. We can only hope for the best, Miss Shizuka interjected somberly, but I'm afraid our journey ends soon and we will arrive in Alaska. Indeed, we had been in the sea for more than 3 weeks now. Anything could happen on the land by now. Hope there is still salvation for us. If not, well, we can only try our best. With newfound determination set firmly within mind, I decided to proceed onward despite potential dangers lurking ahead unknown. Only thing left uncertain now was whether or not fate would grant safe arrival upon reaching shorelines ahead. As long as everything went smoothly without encountering trouble during travels, then perhaps things might work out fine somehow. I spent more than 120 points for fuel and water, but I managed to gain the same amount plus 5 from the system trying to mock me. Besides fishing, the choice came once when I was taking a shit. Unreliable, yes. But it helped. Our trip to Alaska took approximately 5 weeks. As expected, we didn't get any communication until the end. Fortunately, we landed safely. Unfortunately, the cold was so unbearable we had to wear multiple layers of clothing and thick jackets. Unlike when they weren't wearing anything, this was kinda unpleasant for me, haha. Ugh, the cold is killing me. Saya rubbed her gloved hands against her cheek while stomping foot repeatedly atop frozen ground. Her teeth clatter loudly within mouth, indicating extreme discomfort experienced by the young lady amidst harsh winter conditions. Indeed, even with warm clothes on I still feel a shiver creeping down my spine. Miss Shizuka added similarly. Both women wrapped themselves tightly around me, seeking comfort against freezing temperatures currently surrounding us. Foo-fa-foo, it seems you're our heat packs now, brother. Suko giggled, following them and hugging me from the front. Ah, so warm. Geez, do you guys feel that cold? Just deal with it. I shrugged dismissively at their reaction. While I did admit the temperature dropped considerably low here compared to previous regions we passed through thus far, however, I personally thought the weather wasn't too bad. I mean, they were naked near the Russian coast. If they could handle it, they could handle this. I knew they just needed some excuses to snuggle with me. They complained cutely for a few seconds before stopping. So, what should we do? Zuko asked. Pack everything in a Humvee and move. Find a working communication device first, then we can decide our destination. What would we do if we didn't receive any news? Guess we just need to drive to Chicago. What an unexpected predicament. We parked the yacht at a nearby port, and brought everything that might be useful, including guns, medicine, and warm clothing to the Humvee. And also the radio, which still produced noise, and nothing more. Now, where should we go first? Chapter 71, Boom Boom Boom. Engine sound roared in the middle of the road. It was the end of July, but Alaska was cold, really cold. Based on what I learned online, the temperature was roughly 10 degrees Celsius on average at this time around the year. Compared to winter in Tokyo that has around 4 degrees Celsius on average, the summer temperature in Alaska was only 10 degrees higher. Frankly speaking, the place sucked, especially if we compared it to beaches in Japan. I wanted to return already. And it was snowing here, adding to the shitty atmosphere in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. Oh yeah, speaking about zombies, we found them a few meters from the harbor, walking around aimlessly like a lost kid. Most of them wore warm clothes and hats, which was probably protecting them from the cold environment. A lot of them were children and adults, like the usual zombies. We decided to ignore them and drove toward the city area where we hopefully could find a working telephone or satellite phone. The mountainous and snowy area didn't really help in our journey. Our Humvee got caught in piles of snow multiple times. Sometimes Siko and I had to push our vehicle until it freed itself. The best thing about Alaska was that there were so few zombies and cars on the street were scarce. I had complicated feelings about that. I preferred to go to a livelier place like a mall instead of an isolated area where there weren't people to talk to, or zombies to kill. Which meant we shouldn't expect too much. We are already in the Humvee for 3 days. I want some proper bath and bed to sleep. Saya groaned. Miss Shizuka nodded, adding her opinion. Yes, I agree. Moreover, we should refill our gas, don't you think? She glanced sideways towards the indicator reflecting near the empty fuel tank. Otherwise our trip will end here sooner rather than later. We still have 3 liters fuel, don't worry about that. Based on the sign I saw, there should be a city in 5 kilometers. We just need to go straight to this street and maybe we can find a shop there to get essential stuff. I reassured them. Even so, I was also slightly worried. Our communication was still lost. Saya tried her best to reconnect with army forces, but unfortunately she couldn't reach anyone yet. Arg, it frustrates me. What the heck happened? Did we miss something important? Damn it. We eventually arrived at what appeared to be a deserted town devoid of signs of life anywhere. Abandoned cars lined up neatly alongside streets while buildings seemingly untouched ever since the outbreak began. Good news? We found a gas station, or at least a tank that used to fill up vehicles with gasoline and diesel fuel. Let's get new supply here, I said, jumping down from the Humvee. Sis, escort Sai and find a house that seems to be safe. Miss Shizuka and I will got some supplies here and then find you. Suko nodded her head firmly. Got it. Stepping out of the Humvee, she helped Saya to bring the radio and find a good house. She brought a katana and a riot shotgun with her. Saya had a new revolver, and so were me and Miss Shizuka. The rest of the guns, 2 and our old revolvers, were stored safely in the Humvee. Miss Shizuka moved our car near the tank and began to check it. She had some difficulty operating the pump, but she soon beamed into a smile. There is still some gas here. That's good. Fill the tank first, then the container. While waiting, I decided to scout the area. There didn't seem to be much to see. Just a few stores nearby and several residential homes. Nothing looked out of ordinary or noteworthy at first glance. However, as I walked further along, something caught my eye. Loud sounds of engine and rotor rang from the sky. 5 military helicopters passed above our area. U.S. Army? Miss Shizuka mumbled curiously from behind. They didn't notice us? I doubted that they were here for us. Most probably something happened in the area where they had to use helicopters. At least there were people alive in the town, and the U.S. Army still existed. That was the only good thing about seeing them. If something did happen in that city, then I guess we need to prepare ourselves better. Whether an army moved, that something bad was 100% worse than what we experienced before. If they said that Salazar Castle was a hard mode, this one was lunatic difficulty. Anyway, there was no choice. Let's go to where Sai and Suko were. Is the gas full already? I asked her. Yep, everything's good. Let's go. After refueling our ride, we went back inside and drove towards where Sai and Suko were waiting for us. They seemed to find a good house, a sturdy-looking brick house. At the moment, Suko was in front of the gate. She was guarding the area from any threats nearby while Saya was inside. I approached her and greeted. How's the house, sis? She smiled sweetly and answered, there are 2 bedrooms here, clean without any blood. The electricity has been cut off but we find fireplace so it should be fine. I have seen some wood in the warehouse. The fridge is empty, and the water isn't working. Well, I guess that much. I shrugged after hearing her answer. Did you also see the helicopter passing by earlier? I did. Do you think there are survivors there? Suko questioned curiously as we continued walking up to the porch. Maybe. Let's try our luck. I said, looking at where the helicopter went earlier, but let's rest for a night and try to get new info. We can use that radio to communicate and maybe get new updates. After checking on Saya, I found her busy adjusting antenna and radio settings. She glanced at us and grunted, Ugh, why do you think they still haven't reached me? I've tried all possible frequencies already. I don't know. I admitted. Maybe they aren't listening. I hope that isn't true. If no one responds, we're screwed. I will try walkie-talkie at the same time to double our luck. But, don't hope too much. Anyway, keep on trying, Saya. I am counting on you for this. I patted her head, and she swatted my hand away in irritation. I know what I need to do. I chuckled lightly, amused by her attitude. Just saying. Then I turned my attention back toward the others. We're going to stay here overnight. Ooh, a nice warm place. Miss Shizuka clapped her hands in happiness. What should we do to spend our time? Her tone sounded really naughty and horny. However, I wasn't really in the mood this time. Not after I saw those helicopters. I knew something was going to happen, so we needed to prepare ourselves better. We could play after securing safety first. I wanted to explore and scout this place further, but it would be better if I did that with Suko. I needed a strong and agile partner for scouting. But at that moment, boom boom boom. Something exploded many times in the distance. Chapter 72, They Multiply Like a Cockroach. Surprised, I quickly ran outside with Suko, who reacted at the same time, to check the source of the explosion. I quickly jumped to the roof, grabbing the edge to pull myself up, and looked to where the helicopter went. What's that? I muttered. I saw multiple fireballs falling down to earth. It was a scene straight out of hell, a nightmare come true. Fire and smoke everywhere, rising up in huge pillars into the sky above us. No, not just one, multiple. 1, 2, 3, and it continued. 5 of them fell down in succession, spreading chaos wherever they went. The helicopter's bombardment continued for a few seconds, giving anything in that area a good riddance. It seemed like they bombed the entire city. Why? And the answer to my question was clear. Zombies. I could see from here, the huge number of them pouring from the distance, scattering in multiple directions. Get inside the house, quick! I shouted loudly, desperation laced my words. I knew if the zombies reached this town, there wouldn't be a way to escape. Siko quickly entered the house. I followed her, slamming the door shut behind us. What is happening? Miss Shizuka asked worriedly, fear written clearly on her face. Her body trembled slightly under stress caused by current circumstances. I don't know. I answered, taking a deep breath to calm myself. Lock everything you can see and put a barricade in front of doors and windows. We will let those zombies pass by quietly while trying to contact the military. I will stay on the roof to see the situation. Then I looked at my sister and gave her a nod. Siko, protect the house, okay? Siko nodded. Got it, brother. Let's start. After checking every window, I made sure all doors leading outwards were securely fastened. We barricaded the front entrance and secured our house as much as we could. Then I climbed to the roof through the second-floor window, holding my M1A1 rifle and ready for the horde. I could see dots running around in the distance, not exactly something I'd like to witness directly. I could guess what happened in those places, why the military bombed them like nothing. I was wrong to say there were just a few zombies. The amount of zombies I saw were countless. Like cockroaches. When you find one, then you should assume there were hundreds of them hiding. If they attacked this city, we would be wiped out easily. The only thing we could do for now was hide until they passed naturally. What happened there? Did a safe place suddenly get overrun? I asked myself as I observed from afar. I don't get it. I have seen this shit from Resident Evil, but not this kind of shit. While I understood that Resident Evil hadn't covered all that happened in the world, I think it was too much to skip something like this. I prayed that only a little bit of that zombies passed by here because the helicopters headed toward different directions. And as we all knew, zombies were attracted by sound, including the sound of the wind blowing from the mountain and waves crashing against the rock. Our current position allowed us to get away from that sound. Maybe God or a random omniscient being answered my prayer, but almost none of those zombies approached our location. They scattered to different directions, but the biggest number headed to where the military went. I wondered what would happen if the helicopter went to where we were. Maybe being unable to contact the military was a blessing in disguise. For hours, the zombies kept passing by like ants, running to their own direction without noticing our presence. The sky turned darker and darker until the moon rose high above the sky and everything went dark, leaving us only with light coming from a portable lamp I had with me. Only after that I heaved a relieved sigh and relaxed my position. Tense muscles aching from being in the same stance for too long, but at least now there was nothing left of those abominations nearby. That meant we were safe again. I climbed down to the second floor and met everyone on the way. I told them that the zombies had gone away and the danger was gone. Thank goodness. Miss Shizuka muttered softly as tears began streaming down her cheeks. I was scared when I heard the explosions. Siko patted Miss Shizuki's back comfortingly, saying it's all right now. We survived. We entered a bedroom where Saya sat down. She stared at us anxiously. I've been trying to contact the U.S. Army all day, but still, nothing. She complained, frustration evident in her voice. I frowned upon hearing this news, feeling somewhat disappointed in myself. It had been a long day. Forcing her to try again would be torturing. Let's rest for today. I have seen where the helicopter went earlier, so we will aim for that direction. If my guess is right, they might have a temporary base set up around there. We can ask them to contact the main army and relay what happened. Saya nodded understandingly. She stretched herself and moaned, that's a relief. Finally, some good news. I chuckled amusedly. Then, I patted her head and ruffled her hair. You've done well, Saya. Stop treating me like a child, she exclaimed while blushing. Okay, little miss. You. I laughed and hugged her, and she struggled to free herself. Arg, you're insufferable. Saya pouted angrily. Oh, I know, but I just can't stop loving you. I smirked playfully, holding back a grin. You. She sighed and rolled her eyes. You're such an idiot sometimes, you know? I laughed again. Idiot sometimes? I could live with that as long as that meant surviving and having fun without getting depressed over the apocalypse. It was way better than staying tense like earlier. If I were surrounded by only serious individuals or those who only follow my word, I didn't think I would have the drive to push myself. Brother, Siko interrupted. She tugged my sleeve, saying, let's have dinner and bath. I cooked something when you were scouting. As if waiting for that moment, Saya's stomach growled loudly. I turned my gaze towards Saya, who looked away with a flushed cheek, embarrassed. She must have been too focused to notice her hunger. You need to take care of your body more, Saya. I know. But the sooner we reconnect, the safer we will be. She reasoned with an irritated expression. Anyway, food. I'm hungry. She stood up and walked downstairs, followed by Miss Shizuka. I trailed behind them with Sako, chuckling lightly. We ate quietly. There wasn't much to talk about, and everyone was tired after a long day. Saya ate 3 portions of the simple canned soup with crackers. I couldn't believe it. This small petite girl was hungrier than me, the biggest guy in our group. On the contrary, Miss Shizuka only ate a little. I couldn't help but stare at her breasts and thought, where did those vitamins go to grow such a huge rack? Sako elbowed me as if knowing what I thought, so I immediately stopped. Relief came as we finished the meal. Our stomachs are filled. I was surprised to find that I wasn't really tired. Perhaps it was because my stamina had grown more than 35 now. Anyway, the relief of passing another danger quickly turns into arousal. I noticed Sako and Miss Shizuka grinned when they saw my dent, as if expecting the outcome. Could it be they spiked my meal with something? No way, right? I couldn't help but accuse them when Sako quickly grabbed me and pulled me to the bedroom. What happened next was a total sex marathon, with Saya watching the whole session and touching herself from the side before joining with a drenched pussy. A cheeky girl. I really loved it. Chapter 73, Liquor. The sun rose pretty late in the morning, around 7 o'clock. Sako and Saya had already gone downstairs, probably preparing breakfast. Meanwhile, Miss Shizuka slept beside me, her soft breath caressing my neck. Her naked body was pressed against mine under a thick blanket, sharing warmth and comfort despite cold weather outside. Her beautiful face was adorned by messy bed hair, which made her seem younger than she truly was. I slowly got out of bed and put on my clothes and jacket. After I dressed up, I went downstairs and heard the sound of cooking. Nice aroma drifted through the air as I approached the kitchen. There, Sako cooked soup while Saya set the table. Good morning, brother. Good morning. I greeted them back with a nod and a smile. Good morning. It smells so good. Are we having fresh ingredients today? Unfortunately, no. Sako turned off the stove and turned to me. I just take a few canned goods from the house, but we're out of luck for the fresh ingredients. We don't even find a farm here. Ah, that's a shame. I sighed. This city was probably not big enough for farming, which meant the city was probably supplied with food from another city. By the way, I heard a car outside this morning. Saya added, putting her finger on her chin in thought. It drove away before I could check, so I didn't really know the type or who drove that. A car? I asked, raising my eyebrows curiously. I also heard it, Sako added. She put the pan on the table and took off her gloves. It sounded a bit similar to our car, but the engine is more. How do I say it? Loud? Similar but louder than a Humvee? Maybe it's a military vehicle. It would make sense if they want to check and confirm the destruction of yesterday's bombardment. This was a big chance for us to get a connection to the main army. If we missed this chance, maybe we had to travel to Chicago by ourselves, which would be a drag and dangerous without any plan. I wanted to go there now, but it was too early. If the vehicle left already, we wouldn't be able to find them easily, especially because the engine sound could echo everywhere in this area. And who knows if the zombies still linger around. I didn't want to put us in danger due to my impatience. I will wake Miss Shizuka up. She should have recovered by now, so I guess she can drive now. After we had our breakfast, we packed everything into the Humvee and went on the road again. This time, we were aiming for the direction the helicopter went. Sako sat beside me on the back, while Miss Shizuka drove with Saya on shotgun. The road was clear, so driving didn't prove too difficult. It seems like there was light snowfall last night, so it's easy to see the track of the vehicle that drove by earlier. Miss Shizuka chirped excitedly as she drove the Humvee. In summer? I asked in bewilderment. Miss Shizuka shrugged. I don't know. It's snowing though? She glanced sideways towards white flakes that fell gently around us. It's pretty, yeah, whatever you say, teacher. Just focus on the road, please. Saya retorted in a voice full of annoyance. It will be bad if we crash or something. Hee, alrighty, Miss Shizuka responded happily, smiling widely before turning back to focus on the road ahead. The snow melted when the sun rose higher, making our travel smooth. Yet again, the zombies' corpses still scattered on the side of the road, most likely because of the military attack. Some zombies were moving around, but I didn't want to waste our time on them. Yesterday, there was no zombie, but it's now here. Thankfully we woke up and left early. Maybe they are attracted by the car's engine. I thought in my head. If it were true, we should avoid using the Humvee in populated areas in case of unwanted attention. I didn't want to be surrounded by them. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel frustrated at how slow we went. It would take hours to reach wherever those military were, especially because we didn't know the road and our trail had disappeared. When we reached a fork road, Miss Shizuka asked us where to go. Without a map, it was difficult to decide which way to go. But luckily, we didn't need to guess. Should I just follow that? Miss Shizuka pointed at some zombie corpses. Judging from their conditions, they were freshly killed. I felt wrong saying it like that, but their bodies hadn't decayed like the others, only had holes on their heads. I immediately understood what she was getting at, so I said, they must have been killed by that vehicle that drove through the area earlier. We should be able to track them down by looking for similar traces along this road. Phew, I thought I was lost. Hee hee. Miss Shizuka, can you please pay attention? Saya complained with an exasperated expression, shaking her head in disapproval. I swear you are such a scatterbrain sometimes. I know. Sorry, Miss Shizuka responded, it won't happen again. She smiled cheerfully and winked at the younger girl sitting beside her. While Saya seemed to complain a lot, she kept our airheaded teacher in check. It was nice. Suko was the best to accompany me and check our surroundings, so I had nothing to worry about. Alright, let's go. I ordered with a smile on my face as I leaned back into my seat. I could see that the road ahead would be clear without obstacles in front of us. That meant no more trouble ahead of us, at least until the next intersection where we might encounter some problems. Our Humvee once again sped up, following the tire marks and zombie corpses on the street. We encountered a few zombies, but Miss Shizuka didn't care at all and ran over them. However, I suddenly heard a strange sound in the distance. OF. Suko's ears perked up, her eyes narrowed in caution as she looked around. What is that sound? I frowned, trying to figure out what the hell it was. I strained my ears and looked out of the Humvee, looking around to find where the sound came from. At that moment, I saw shadows. Two bipedal creatures running between trees, jumping around with superhuman speed. Their blurry shape looked similar to dogs with a short tail. Their long tongue dangling out from their mouth, with red eyes glinted ominously under sunlight. They growled loudly and barked like rabid beasts. Zombies. Miss Shizuka gasped in surprise and stopped the car, staring in horror as the zombie dog suddenly appeared from the forest beside us. Fuck, a licker. I shouted out loud, my mind racing to think of something quick. They were the real cockroaches. One appeared, many would follow. Press the gas, now. We need to escape this area fast. I immediately gave the order and opened the top hatch, now. The impatience in my voice startled her and she slammed the gas immediately. The car accelerated in no time. Licker was one of the most dangerous and deadliest zombies in the series. ABOW, a bioorganic weapon. Leon encountered this creature in Resident Evil 2. In that game, a single licker was enough to kill Leon. And in the movie, it almost cornered Alice, the superhuman protagonist. Its claws and fangs were sharp enough to shred metal doors, and its tongue could be shot from a long distance to strangle and grab prey. Moreover, they moved extremely fast, much more agile than the zombies we encountered before. Their agility was unmatched by anything we ever faced until now. Brother, they are getting closer. Suko said worriedly, pointing behind me. Chapter 74, Direct Contact with Army. I know. I already had them in my scope and just had to pull the trigger. But they moved in a zigzag pattern with incredible speed, and even though I aimed my rifle at their heads, I wasn't confident I would hit them from 350 meters away. So I waited. Hey, do something about that. Even when Saya's voice was laced with fear, I waited. My breathing went calm and slow as I aimed carefully at their head. 300 meters. The car swayed and tilted, almost losing control. Kaya. 200 meters. I closed one of my eyes as the lickers were in my crosshair, ready to pull the trigger anytime. 100 meters. The zombie dog jumped on its four limbs. It jumped higher than humans, reaching almost the height of a two-story house. 50 meters. I shot twice while controlling my breathing. Bang. Bang. I watched through the scope as I shot them both down with headshots. The bullets pierced their exposed brains, splattering bits everywhere before they died midair. They fell limply to the ground with thuds. Half the rest of the group sighed in relief. Our Humvee continued driving down the street without stopping. I took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. I can't let myself get complacent, I told myself. We don't know what's waiting for us next. This time, I could deal with them with 2 headshots, but they would get more troublesome if I missed them. And that meant my head would get ripped apart in seconds. I stayed alert with my gun ready in case more liquor showed up. We continued our trip for another 20 minutes without any problems or encounters. It was like the earlier attack was just an accident, something that shouldn't happen. The car finally stopped at the edge of town, near a cliff overlooking the sea. There they are. Saya suddenly shouted excitedly as soon as Miss Shizuka parked her vehicle. She pointed her finger towards something far away. There, we saw a dark green vehicle parked in a big clearing. The vehicle was bigger and bulkier than a Humvee, and I guessed it was an armored truck. 3 men stood beside the truck, seemingly checking the area. They had noticed us and one of them pointed in our direction. From their expression, it was clear they were wary about unidentified vehicles approaching. Get out of the car without holding weapons except the sword and knives. I will talk to them. I told my group to get out of the car and approach them while making sure to keep our hands in view to show we weren't hostile. We got out the Humvee and approached them. They wore green uniforms, helmets, and body armor with weapons at the ready. 2 of them had a handgun while one had an M16 rifle. They didn't aim their weapons at us, but we could see from the look in their eyes that they wouldn't take any chance. I raised my hands above my head as soon as I stepped out. We're civilians from Japan, seeking shelter. I have contacted the U.S. Army under Busujima's name, bringing an important virus sample for research. Please, we mean you no harm. If possible, can you relay that info to the main base or Minami Rika? I spoke up in a loud voice, throwing the identification card I prepared in advance. He looked surprised when he read my card before glancing over his shoulder at another soldier and nodding slightly. Then he turned his attention back to us. He asked in fluent English, "So you guys are really Japanese?" "Yes, we have lost communication with your army base a few days ago before reaching Alaska. Can we get in contact with them now?" "Sorry, I am only a sergeant, but we will contact our base to confirm." "Don't make a funny move," he said, gesturing to his subordinate behind him. Taking the order, he nodded and whispered something to his walkie-talkie before listening intently. He communicated with the main base and after a few minutes of silence, the man nodded and whispered something to the sergeant. "Is that so?" He turned to me, looking curious and said, "You have the virus sample? Can I see it?" "I put it in a safe place, hidden somewhere only I know. If you request a helicopter to take us to Chicago, we will bring it with us." I wouldn't naively show that lost Plaga parasite to him. Umbrella had men in the army. I didn't trust them. "Chicago?" he asked in confusion. "Yes. Isn't that the place where you guys build the shelter? A safe haven in this chaotic world? A special force called Minami Rika will vouch for us if you contact them." The sergeant frowned at this, scratching his chin. He then said, "I don't have that information, and we are not allowed to disclose such sensitive matters. Please wait for a while. I will convey that message to the main base and see if there is anything I can do for you." This time, he didn't ask his subordinate. Instead, he walked to the truck and contacted his base through a radio inside. A minute later, he walked back and gave us the answer we wanted to hear. "You can ride with us to the main camp. The general wants to talk with you." I smiled at hearing those words. "Thank you. We appreciate it very much." The sergeant gave me a friendly grin before motioning towards his men, who quickly went into their vehicles. "We're leaving. Our patrol is done." The other 2 soldiers nodded and followed suit, climbing into the back seat of their own vehicle. The 3 soldiers introduced themselves as Sergeant Brown, Corporal Williams, and Private Clark. 2 more joined after they returned from their so-called patrol. We didn't know anything else about these guys besides that they were from the U.S. Army, and that we could trust them enough not to kill us right away. Chapter 75, Military Base. After a short exchange, we rode back into our vehicle, and followed the soldiers to their base. It was pretty surprising there were only 5 of them on a big vehicle like that, considering it was supposed to fit 10 or so people. Our journey back to their base was quiet. Everyone seemed to relax a bit, feeling safer with the U.S. soldiers around us. The trip took a little over an hour and a half, during which time I kept glancing around in caution. Naturally, I didn't trust people I just met or didn't know. Those I knew from the game, I was cautious with them, and I had a hunch about their character. But those I never knew about were dangerous. They were unpredictable, especially because they might be connected with Umbrella in the future. After driving up the steep slope of a mountain range, we arrived at an isolated military base built in the middle of a forest, surrounded by barbed wire fences and sandbags. 3 tents were erected outside the fence, and 3 guards stood guard at each corner. There was a watchtower in each direction of the compass, with 4 armed guards patrolling around it. 2 machine guns were mounted on top of the tower. There were a couple of Humvees parked next to the gate, along with an armored personnel carrier. All of them looked well maintained. However, the size was too small to call it a main base. It might be an outpost to protect a nearby main base or city. The armored truck stopped right before entering the base and we also stopped. Sergeant Brown exited the truck, headed towards me, and said, "This place isn't exactly safe yet but we're doing our best. So please leave all your weapons here, and don't make any sudden move." He pointed at the tent outside, most probably the checkpoint. Leaving our weapons? That meant we had to enter an unknown military base while being naked. I couldn't risk it, so I countered, I will enter alone and put the weapon in a Humvee and have the others to stand guard. Is that acceptable? Sergeant Brown frowned and asked, is that necessary? If I can get a guarantee of safety, I don't need to do that. However, I have been in some situations before. Please understand my position too. Also, do you think they can be any danger to the U.S. Army? Sergeant Brown was silent for a few seconds. Then, he nodded and replied, all right. I'll talk with General Mason first. With that said, Sergeant Brown walked inside, accompanied by Corporal Williams. Private Clark was still in the truck, keeping an eye on us. He looked bored though, and I thought he might not be very good at his job. Anyway, I was now left with the girls and 2 soldiers. The atmosphere between both parties was pretty tense, as we didn't trust each other yet. I wonder what this General Mason looks like. Saya said softly. Hopefully, someone who understands the importance of the sample. If he's only a bit like Papa, then that would be great. I nodded in agreement. We needed to be careful here. After all, we weren't dealing with random people anymore. They were military and they had guns and authority. A moment later, the sergeant returned, saying that we were cleared to go in. So, I told the girls to wait with all our equipment inside the Humvee except for Siko's sword. She would be able to protect themselves in case of an emergency. After that, I followed him into the base. As soon as I entered the camp, I saw several men and women walking around, some wearing uniforms while others dressed in civilian clothing. There was even a young woman wearing full gear holding an M16 rifle. There were also some soldiers in their uniforms, standing guard near certain areas or just lounging about. Most of them had rifles or pistols strapped to their belts. A few were smoking. Some of these soldiers were quite tall, standing around 180 centimeters. I prided myself for being tall with no one taller than me in Japan, but I had to accept that I wasn't the tallest in this world. Especially in the West. We were walking towards a large tent where a general waited for us. Sergeant Brown told me what I shouldn't do and how I should greet the general. Apparently, he wasn't very pleased to meet us. It wasn't unexpected, since I said that I brought an unknown virus sample, and even asked for a helicopter to Chicago, a city far away from Alaska. We finally reached the general's office, and Sergeant Brown stopped me outside. I will leave you alone, but remember not to act rudely. Please don't worry about that. I assured him with a smile. After I answered, he opened the door and ushered me inside the tent. The first thing that caught my eye was the old, bald-headed man sitting at a table with several papers strewn across its surface. He wore a uniform that bore the rank insignia of a general. He looked stern and intimidating. Come in. The old man beckoned me to come forward. I approached his desk and looked around, wondering if I had to sit somewhere. But yeah, we were talking about military tents, so there was no seat at all. Just a bunch of papers and documents. I am Major General John Mason, commander of this base, he began, introducing himself. What is your name and why are you here? He said bluntly and in a very commanding voice, staring straight at me as he did so. Busujima, sir. I contacted the U.S. Army for shelter, bringing a virus sample with me. I need to bring this to Chicago to meet my contact, Minami Rika. Can you provide me with transportation there? I replied respectfully, standing tall and proud. The Major General was quiet for a few seconds. Chicago? We haven't been in touch with them for 2 weeks. There is a big problem there. Problem? What problem? I asked. He raised an eyebrow at me and said, why should I answer that question? You're just a civilian. A Japanese, moreover. We have our secrets to keep. He had a point there, so I said, we know a lot of things. Maybe I can share that information if you tell me what is happening. Hearing my answer, he narrowed his eyes suspiciously. I could feel a tense silence between us, a thickening aura of hostility. If this was a movie, this would be where the suspenseful music would start playing. So I continued, before arriving here, I found 2 Umbrella Corps underground labs. Chapter 76, Deal Sealed, Humiliating Annoying Guy That Managed to Get His Attention. His eyes went wide open. What? I took a deep breath and said calmly, I found 2 Umbrella Corps secret laboratories before arriving here. I infiltrated them with a few people that I trust the most. You infiltrate Umbrella Corp? He looked surprised. Then he rubbed his chin thoughtfully. I don't know whether to believe you or not, kid. Japan might not be as big as America, but the corporation surely had their secret facility. I continued, we infiltrated their lab and discovered some vital information, mainly about T-virus and Las Plagas. As proof. I paused and fished the keycard I obtained from that researcher infected by Las Plagas. The red and white logo was still visible.